All right, let's see. All right, so it says welcome back. Starting. So we have Adrian Medina on with us today, with me and Gary Buller, and this is the horror show, and we're going to talk about a few things here, but we'll just casually talk until we get some people watching. Adrian, quick question actually to start something off.
What's that?
So with your name, I was wondering too about just doing W.C. Marchese instead of my first name William.
Yeah.
And then I just said, you know what? If somebody's gonna find someone's gonna find your name no matter what. I mean, Stephen King used to try to do pen names, and within like a certain, I don't know if it was a year or so, they just somebody found something in one of the bylines at the end of the book, and they figured it out, and they
Yeah.
So, what was your whole take when you first thought of using a pen name or your full name?
Well, a couple things. One, my name's kind of common in Mexico in the Southwest, right? It's you type in Adrian Medina into Google, like I was telling you earlier, and a billion other people will come up. Also, Adrian Medina is the name of a famous Cuban dancer. And there's the whole literary thing. There's a lot of times people do that. They'll do the two initials or the one initial, so it kind of masks your gender, because either consciously or subconsciously, some people won't want to read books by dudes or women. So that way they at least pick up your book. You know what I mean? But so there's that, and I think it flows a little better, personally.
Yeah, I think it sounds quite good.
Yeah, you always got to have that hook to get them going. Like, I know my last name is like the first thing you think is freaking cheese, So I'm like,
I think when I first did your surname, I was like Marchese. I know it was Marchese, weren't it? I was calling you. Was it?
Yeah,
I can't remember. I called you something else. Pronunciation was a bit off, but yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, And then I looked it up too, and there's like a Marchese clothing line, and there's all this other stuff in Italy. I'm like, well, where's my money?
Right.
But it's like, yeah, it's so there's even like other William Marcheses. I was like, what the hell? I didn't think it was
Yeah, when I started Googling, trying to figure out if I wanted to use my name or not, I realized how non-unique my name is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Out of my group of friends, my name's pretty unique because everyone's like John and Brian and you know what I mean, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, sweet, I have a pretty cool name. And then I Googled Adrian Medina, and there's 5 billion in Arizona alone. So I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
I think there's you go on Facebook and there's a shitload of Gary Bullers. There's just loads of us, and it's weird. And there's a few in America actually, and apparently there's a Mount Buller as well, isn't there, somewhere in America? So you search for Buller, and you get.
Buller?
Yeah, you get a Mount Buller or a Mount Buller or however you pronounce it. But yeah, there's a mountain. It's somewhere in America called Buller.
You know what state?
No, but I'll Google it and find out.
Okay.
There's a mountain in America. There's a mountain in America called Bush. And a lot of people try to head for it.
Wait, they're all after the bush, man.
Oh no, not that! Jesus.
Oh dear. Yes. Sorry, this is a bit of a step down from Leo's podcast, Adrian.
Oh, I'm just here to chat. Like I said before we started filming, I'm a little temporarily under the weather at the moment, but I've got my coffee and stuff, so I'm good to go.
Cool. No, that's really good.
Yeah, it was such a crazy day today, getting everything ready and
Madness.
All right, so how did you come up with Aphotic Realm? Like, how'd you get the idea? Why did you want to have to go off into this project, this endeavor to create a magazine, when a lot of people say that there's no, it's for the love and that you don't make money or...
Yeah. Well, okay, so Dustin and I went to school together for creative writing and entertainment. So in that it's a bachelor's degree program. It's 3.5 years because there's no summer breaks. But yeah, so we went to school there. After maybe a couple months, we kind of gravitated toward each other. I think it was to literally start bitching about a professor, to vent. So he messaged me or I messaged him on like Facebook or something like that because we added each other, and and then it just started off. We would trade our assignments, to proofread and edit and bounce ideas off each other, kind of behind the curtain before we actually did the assignment in school. But as it was nearing the end, you hear. I've had lots of. I'm 30, so the majority of my friends went to college, right when we're 18, 19, the normal time you go.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd go for these degrees and stuff, and then they'd end up working at like a car dealership with a degree in like microbiology. You know what I mean? So my whole thing, So my whole thing was like, okay, Dustin and I kind of agreed. Like when school's over, we need to completely immerse ourselves in this community, like in the craft. We have to find a way to always be deadline oriented, and some part of our day is with editing and writing. And so we're like, there was a couple things that we were throwing up in the air, like let's try doing this, let's try doing that. And a lit mag, we kind of just went in completely blind. Like we did maybe a week of research on our own. We already knew of a couple. We actually knew of like deadlights and stuff like that. And we were pretty like, oh, that's a pretty legit mag. And then I think right after Apparitions came out, they like fell apart. You know what I mean? I'm glad it's coming back together, the anthology. But and then that's just what we did. I mean, it's nice. We met a lot of people through it. We're not looking for profit, really. You know what I mean? It'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives us that outlet and it keeps us involved. Because I don't think if we had Aphotic Realm, life takes over. So it'd be like, I need to get some writing done. And then a month goes by and you didn't really do anything. But at least this keeps our heads in the game and, in contact with like minds the whole time. So
what I'd like to know is, how do you maintain such a sort of high standard for a sort of for the love publication? I mean, I've seen other publications out there that, sort of quote unquote free, publications you submit, it goes out there, and it's, most of them are pretty terrible. But one thing, I mean, I've championed Aphotic Realm in like a few of the podcasts before, and it's not just for playing lip service to you and Dustin. I genuinely am impressed by the fact that the product at the end of it is so good that I'll actually buy it even though I'm not in it, which is not often the case. So how do you maintain that sort of high standard for a free publication? What's your process from, say, sort of putting a call out there to submissions to actually getting the final thing out on Amazon or whatever? What do you do? How do you make it so high, the quality?
Oh, it's a grind for sure. That's another reason we did quarterly. We knew going in that we, basically the only capital we have is to pay for the website domain. We're not rolling in cash to kind of throw money at it. So we knew that it was going to be like an amateur market. But the thing is, we wanted people to be, if there's a ton of those, like submit and it's free and you'll get put in an anthology or something like that. But we wanted, like, if we're not going to pay you monetarily, we at least want you to be like proud, like that it looks nice, and stuff like
exactly,
that.
Yeah.
But what happens is we'll put out the submission call, and submissions rolling in. We used to like read them as they come in. We're stopping doing that now. We had to stop doing that with Banish because now it's not like 20, 30. It's like too much. Yeah. So now we've actually set like a reading period, but we still get the emails like, I sent you something, and it's like, read the guidelines. It says we're not going to read it till this date. But Chris, Dustin, and I will sit down, put together our thing. We don't really do number of stories. We try to do word count just so it's not too big and the cost of it's not too much. Yeah. And then for about 3 weeks, I'll sit down and I'll do all the design inside of it. And just make sure it's where it's at. So I'm learning every one. I mean, I'm hoping everyone gets a little bit better. Because with Apparitions, like I think I was like 15 pages in, and I was like, I don't know if I can do 100 pages of this by the date that we set. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I was like, we got in over our head. But I've created good routines, so
it seems to work. I mean, I remember sort of reading the first sort of opportunity I had to read an Aphotic Realm magazine was, I think, you kindly put in an advert for my anthology in there, and you sent me a copy to show me. And I remember reading it, and it's like, okay, I like you, I like Dustin, brilliant, this thing's coming through. And my expectations, I don't take this the wrong way, but my expectations weren't particularly high. And, and it came in and I was reading it, and I read Dustin's introduction and his little story, his little ghost story, like the true ghost story at the beginning. And I'm like, actually, this is really, really good. And the quality is very high. And I sort of went through it, and I saw it was full colour, and I liked the way the pages were laid out. And I thought, this is actually really, really good. And when I saw the cover for the second issue, with like the skeleton in a I don't know, is he in space or is he in some sort of
it's like in a spacesuit.
Yeah, you got the skeleton in the spacesuit. I was like, my God, I really, really, really want to be in that. Never judge a book by its cover and all that, but I was like, that looks absolutely amazing. Your covers are absolutely fucking flipping spot on. You know, they look. I mean, we'll agree. Your covers rival. In my opinion, things like Unnerving, when you look at it, you think that's a nice cover, and I want to be in a magazine just to have that cover on my shelf.
And they're great artists. Like, we basically the same thing we do with writers is that's why we have the artist showcase. And I hate doing the whole stupid like for exposure crap, but we just throw it out there, And I like comic books a lot. Dustin like comic books a lot. So we're in like a couple little comic book writer artist groups and stuff too. And we'll throw that out and be like, hey, we're looking for a cover. You get a showcase. You get 5 to 8 pages of like your portfolio and contact information. And, some people have gotten contacted for commission work through their covers. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
So, and Gunnar was our first cover artist for Apparitions. He's a really good friend of mine. So I kind of made him give me a piece to use for it.
Nice.
But because we didn't really, it was our first issue. I didn't really know him. I was like, oh damn, do I know an artist? And I was like, I do know an artist. And I went through his online portfolio, and I was like, hey Gunnar, I really like this piece. Can we use it for the cover? He's like, I guess. And I was like, okay, thank you.
That's easy.
Yeah.
But it's true, because with the artwork, some of these magazines, like the more literary ones, the more like quote unquote fancy ones, like they have these pieces that you're like, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, it's starting to grow on me. Okay, yeah. And then you look to especially for horror, you look to these weird, elaborate works. And sometimes it's also, it's just, as long as it's something good, and it sometimes it could just turn into something. It's like a Metallica album. You got to listen to it a couple times, and then you start really loving some of the songs over and over again. And it's something that grows on you. But with the artwork, as long as you have something organic and something original, instead of like, I know some places they go online, they find some pictures, and they touch them up with like maybe Adobe Photoshop or something. But when you have that artwork that somebody's like worked on, it's just that it has that next level of quality. It's like this is going to be good. I mean, I know they say never judge a book by its cover, but sometimes
Oh, that's such a lie. Everyone judges the book by the cover.
Exactly.
So I do.
I mean, I judge a publication as well based on the way they treat your work. I think when you first start out as a new author, you look for these sort of full-love publications, and these publications with a relatively relatively high acceptance rate, just to sort of get yourself out there. Because you sort of, when you start off as a writer, you sort of learning the boundaries and what you can do and stuff. But with Aphotic Realm, it's the great thing about it is there's that editing process in there as well. And when I submit to you over other sort of free publications I've submitted to in the past, you've treated the work right. There's an editing process in there that's very, very good. I know that once you send a story out there, it's more or less out there forever, And with Aphotic Realm, I know it's in good hands. I know you're going to treat it well. It's going to be showcased well. Whereas other pieces of work I've sent out as a new writer, I'm kind of not so happy it's out there. You know, if you know what I mean, because it's
Yeah.
literally just been taken and just thrown out. You know,
Yeah.
and they've not edited it, or you know.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's it. I don't get how people do that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there is the urge sometimes. We were like, you know, like when we first started, when there wasn't so many stories trickling in, it was like, you know, we'll take the bottom of the barrel. But we fought that urge and we didn't do it. And if there was a story that was like subpar, we at least try to, you know, cover it in red ink and send it back and be like, we know that we could do better. I mean, we both, like I said, we both have degrees in it. So the initial concept of starting it to be involved, you know what I mean, and to use our degrees and not let, you know, the tuition loans go to waste. It's like, yeah, we're going to take it and we're going to edit it. Like, it only makes us better writers too.
Yeah.
Like, my mentality is I'm a writer first, editor second. That doesn't take away from me being an editor at all.
No.
But that's how I see it. I'll read the story first as a consumer, and if I like it, like as just a reader, and if I like it, I'll look at it as an editor, do my edits, and then I try to read it one more time as a writer and kind of see what they did, you know, just, I mean, it's that age-old thing. You learn from good and bad writing. So you read everything. So
yeah, I think it's really important from like the writer's perspective just to have it, as I said before, sort of showcased well, and not to look back on it and sort of regret it in any way. And there are a few stories, I'm sure Will's the same, that are maybe out there where it's like, yeah, that could have been slightly better. But I know that with issue 2 of Aphotic Realm, with the story that was in there, I read it now, you know, and I'm still quite happy with it. And it's just like, yeah, I'm happy for it to be out there. And that, I think that's because, you know, there is that process, and you do actually read it. You know, you read it word for word, whereas the impression I get with some other places is they literally just bang, you know, yeah, we'll take, you know, the very little money we get off Amazon, you know, usually by the authors that are buying copies of their own works. You know, we'll just whack it out there, no editing. Yeah, you're accepted, brilliant. You know, and then we'll just rake in the proceeds, and it's shite. It really is, and you don't learn anything. You know,
you don't learn anything, and that wouldn't make sense for us because it is an 8x5x11 full color. The cost, and it's, you know, print on demand, so the cost after putting on Amazon and everything like that, like I think what classified is going for $14.99 or something like that USD. Well, it costs to make it like $13.80 something. So each cell we're only making like $1, and that goes right to the account to pay for our domain name next year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, pays for Dustin's beard. Pays for Dustin to get his beard conditioned. He's awesome. I love his viral marketing. You know, the little videos he does. He's such an awesome guy. He's clearly a really, really nice person, and you know, he's obviously a family man, and I really admire him. But his videos are just amazing. They're just so funny.
He really is. He has that childlike playfulness, but he's still serious dad mode all the time. I don't know. It's also really weird, and I like our dynamic because we come from two complete backgrounds. Like, he's an upstanding citizen, and I'm a dirty degenerate. So.
Oh yeah, you can tell you're a bit of a bastard from your profile picture.
Well, you know, I when I first started getting into like writing and stuff like that, and I was like, all right, I gotta kind of do my brand and stuff like that. At first, I was like, all right, it's gonna be a clean slate, very professional. And then about 6 months into it, I was like, I'm not that kind of guy. Like, I'm not out there to be a shock jock, and I'm not out there to be that whatever, but not going to really censor who I am. You know what I mean? So
look at Jack Ketchum. You know, he's a bastard. Well, he wasn't a bastard, but he was a gritty. He smoked. He liked his hard liquor, and people respected that. He was a nice guy, and people respected him for that. So yeah, I think it's really cool that you're obviously like a cigarette and you like a beer, and you know, not all right.
I'm a human being.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I'm a human being.
You know,
so
yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, we get a lot of submissions, and we'll see all different, because we always ask for a profile picture and like a bio. We'll see all walks of life, and you know, you get the ones that are they're wearing like a tuxedo and Facebook, and they're like posting like weird half porn stuff, and it's like just do that in your just be that author, like you know what I mean. Like if you write horror erotica, like own the horror erotica. So I don't know.
No, I feel a little bit like that with the Twitter thing. I'm sort of as you know, I can be a little bit offensive sometimes on Twitter. I try not to be offensive with other people's products, or I'll just put stuff out there that's silly. But that's I suppose I'm not like that at home with my kids or anything. Obviously, that's sort of part of me, and I think I see that almost as something that differentiates me from other authors. A lot of people are very straight laced, or they try to put on this sort of fascia of being this straight laced person, but that's what differentiates me. I've got a really silly sense of humour, and I don't mind sort of showing it on Twitter and on social media and stuff. And that's me.
You do. At first, it was a little abrasive. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
When we first started talking, but I was like, it's not like I was offended, but I was expecting I was expecting the very polite British man.
Which I am generally,
That's the thing. Once you talk to him in person, it changes. It's just on Twitter, it's like a different like a personality. I guess because Twitter is weird. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, you just have this crazy urge to start posting crazy stuff.
Yeah, I liken it to like road rage. Some people can be a completely different person when they're surrounded by a ton of metal and they're, invincible because you're both sort of driving at whatever miles an hour you're driving at. You know what I mean? And suddenly you miss the big balls, and because you're untouchable. And I suppose it's a little bit like that with Twitter. It's consequenceless because I know that I can put something out there and I can take the mickey out of someone or whatever, and in a playful sort of way and get away with it to the extreme. What's the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to say, "Please don't be like that." Something out there, And I suppose that's the way it goes sometimes. But I'm not a bastard. I really don't like upsetting people. I don't like doing that. I prefer.
You got to test the boundaries, though. Like,
yeah,
you got to. I'll push a little bit until I see it's bending, and then I'm not going to be an asshole and keep pushing. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. When someone comes out, when someone's laughing along with you, and suddenly blocks you, you think, "Hang on a minute," who's
their face? Like, I'm a big facial expression guy, so I talk a lot of crap with friends, and we give each other a hard time. But you start seeing someone's mannerisms and their expressions on their face change, you kind of know to lay off. But if you're going back and forth via text, I mean, you can say something really stupid, and I do that. I have a wife. So, and we'll text back and forth, and I'll text a joke, and you do not hear the sarcasm in it. And then she'll come home and be like, "What the hell was your problem?" I was like, "I was joking. Jesus Christ." You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, "You went radio silent for the last 2 hours. I thought you were just busy or something."
Yeah. No, I'm the same. I've been with my other half for like 17 years. It's nearly 18 years. So
I'm about 10, almost 10, a little about 9 with my wife. So.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she puts up a lot of shit. So
I can imagine.
Yeah, I can get a little manic here and there. So
well, I think the significant others always put up with a lot of shit with the writers, man, because sometimes it's just you go away into a corner or something. Sometimes you're on your phone trying to work on something and they're talking to you and you're like, you're gonna get in trouble, but you got to do you're writing got some idea or you're working on some
yeah.
No, she's really good with that. Like if I'm doing something, if I'm not just like playing with myself in a corner or like watching a random TV show, if I'm actually have like a document open, whether it be like an artistic document or whatever, she's good about it. Like she'll pop in and be like, "Hey, we got to do this or that soon, so wrap it up." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's never that. I mean, she's been with me through my whole most of my musical career too, and went on tour with us. So she's seen both the outside Adrian in foreign cities having to get on stage anxiety, and then she's seen the at home staring at a blank screen anxiety. So she's getting it from You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's cool. Wait till you have
Well,
kids,
like-
though.
Yeah.
no.
Hey, what you don't know is that she's actually sat next to him right now, and he's got to say these things.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I'm alone at the moment, but
Oh, okay.
at my house, I have one of those open door houses
Yeah.
with friends, so I can have a friend just kind of walk in. And I'm in my garage right now because my animal.
Yeah, I'm in the kitchen.
And I can walk in and there'll be like two friends on my couch that I didn't know were coming over. So I have one of those types of houses. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
So I'm taking that the neighborhood is pretty damn decent over there.
Yeah, where I live, it's not too bad. I live in northwest of Phoenix and Peoria.
Yeah.
So it's a little suburb. I mean, I don't know if you guys know Phoenix. Like Phoenix it's like a metropolis. Like we don't build up, we build out.
Oh, okay. That's cool because I had to get out of the city because it was just too much. Like all those buildings and corporate.
I couldn't do that, man. I could not do that. Buildings, tall buildings scare me. I'm born and raised in like the flattest of flat cities. So like when I went to Seattle and I was in downtown, I was just looking at the skyscrapers. I was all, oh, I don't like this. I'm getting vertigo.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? So like,
And then all the noises and just it's just so crowded and.
Like out where I live, all you hear is like coyotes at night, and then like the freeway a couple miles away. That's about it. So.
Oh, nice.
Okay. I mean, if Will came over to Manchester, I'd be like, yeah, this is Beetham Tower, the biggest building in Manchester. I'd be like, my shed's bigger than that. You know?
Cool.
But I call that my shed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it, Will. Like that's too much. That's too much stimuli
Yeah.
to be in New York City.
Well, where I'm
Like I go to downtown Phoenix and like I can't handle it. And there's not even people walking around in downtown Phoenix after 2
wow.
p.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
That's the thing. Like in Manhattan, it's just it's everywhere. I just work there, but then when I moved out into the like not totally up into the suburbs, but it's like sort of out in the suburbs, and it's like Gary said, you hear a car every once in a while go by. But when I was living in the city, it's just you hear people stomping upstairs, you hear the horns, the cars, the people cursing, people doing it. I'm like, oh my god, I can't take this, especially when you want to read or write or something. It's just a lot of noise.
yeah, I can't do that. I like my deafening silence at night. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a country boy for sure. Where I grew up, it's called the Peak District, or the gateway to the Peak District where I grew up. It's all moorland. It's like Hound of the Baskervilles. It's literally just heather and grass and reservoirs, and that's it. Yeah. And so I'm sort of I don't get coyotes, obviously, but at night all you do is like barn owls and just silence. You'd see foxes and you'd see hedgehogs everywhere. And but now I sort of live in more of a suburban environment because of Lisa, because she's from the other side of Manchester. So transport links for work, it's just easier for me to live here than it is to live out in the sticks. But yeah, I'm sort of a little bit with Medina on this. It's like. Yeah, a bit of a country bumpkin, like a bit of quiet,
yeah, I've lived in like the middle of nowhere, out in Arizona, and then I've lived like closer into the city where it's more hectic. And
yeah,
I don't like the nothingness of the sticks.
Yeah.
Like I like where I live now because there's still people. People are still walking around, walking their dog.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
You'll hear a car drive by. You hear your neighbors in the backyard, having their party. But it's nothing like a city. Because that's just
no,
Yeah, that's the same like where I am. Like I like a 10-minute walk. I can get on the Metro North and go to Manhattan. Like it's like the houses are next to each other, but they're not like connected or anything. So they're it's like you said. You see the people walking the dog. You hear like once in a while you'll hear somebody mowing their lawn or something. But it's nothing. It's nothing like this. Like
No. Whenever I think of New York, I always think of like I don't know. The films where you're in this really shitty sort of roach motel sort of thing, and all you can hear is outside gunshots and police sirens and people booing the horns. It's like, where's this bum?
Some places the gunshots, but not so much the gunshots, but the roach. I keep wondering. I say to myself because all the affluent people, right, live in Manhattan. Everybody wants to live in Manhattan because it's like so close to the work and everything. And I look at this and I'm saying, How could you, like, you go outside, you got the exhaust smoke and everything. How could you breathe this air in and have a family? And they always have the houses upstate, but then they have this, like, $5 million condo in the center of Manhattan, and you go outside and you're stepping over people laying in the street. You got rats jumping around. It's just, I just can't see spending all that money to live in such a... And that's a good area. That's not even a shitty area of Manhattan.
Yeah. It's like London. London is a horrible place. Everyone sort of thinks of London. You think of England, London. That's the place to be. I've worked in London, as part of my job, and the people there are really, really ignorant. Massive sidewalks, where there's loads and loads of people walking up and down. Just traffic, pollution. Whereas in Manchester, which is our nearest city, it's busy, but I think it's a different type of people, and it's not quite as bad. Yeah, I imagine New York's a little bit like London in that respect.
It is.
And it's a bit of a shithole, really, London. But
so, Kelly has a question. Sorry. She said, "If the zombie apocalypse happens, would you miss the sounds of civilization? Being that we live in quiet areas, would we miss the sounds of civilization if zombies started to attack or run rampant?"
Well, I live in the wild, wild west, so all I would hear is a bunch of automatic gunfire everywhere. I mean, I live in Arizona, man. Like,
yeah.
Everyone has 5 guns, even if they don't want it. It's just, that's just what it is.
Everything would be in check up there.
what you do is you drive, 20 minutes in any direction to the middle of the desert, and you shoot guns and drink beer. Like, it's we're very rednecky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I can't tell you how sick I am of seeing red hats.
Oh.
Everywhere I go.
Will's got a red hat as well.
What's so funny?
That's as political as I'll get, but
no, that's cool. That's cool. I mess around with the people at my job because I work in like this corporate what's that, corporate banking place. I do like conference and all that stuff. But I have this hat and it says fire warden on it, right? And it's a red hat. So whenever I want to piss somebody off that I know is and there's really not a lot that aren't pissed off by the hat at the place I work. So whenever I want to mess around with them or play a joke, they come around the bend, I'll just put the hat on. And they start, "What the fuck is that? Why are you wearing that?" I start laughing my head. I say, "Read the freaking sign on the top, man. It says fire warden, you dope."
Yes, if I put on a red hat here, I just get a thumbs up by like every...
Oh, man, New York. No, New York is...
But, yeah... He ruined red hats forever, man. You can't wear a red hat now.
Red hat, yeah, that's done. Limp Bizkit's fucked,
It's very like Hitler-esque. I mean, you can't have that mustache anymore. Now you can't wear a red hat.
Whoever really had that fucking mustache? I mean,
I tried to grow a handlebar one once. Okay, I've never gone for the Hitler though.
It's like one little.
Just tell everybody it's the chaplain. It's not the Hitler. It's the chaplain.
Oh yes. Well, wasn't Chaplin like? Wasn't he? Didn't he like? I mean, I'm probably saying the wrong thing, but wasn't he a fan of Hitler?
No, he played Hitler in a movie called The Great Dictator, which is a really great movie. So
okay.
Yeah, he was very anti-Hitler. He was also English, wasn't he, Charles Chaplin?
Well, I know a lot of people like American culture and everything. Before I guess the whole thing started with him doing the crazy shit that he did. Before that all started, I know there's a lot of fans of him in America and in the movie industry and everything. Before everything went down, so it was,
Yeah, he's. I've not really watched that much Chaplin. I've seen The Great Dictator, and I thought it was very good.
Well, that speech at the end is amazing.
Oh, it's unbelievable. You sort of see it on YouTube and stuff if you want to watch it. It's just so inspiring. It just sort of holds up now as well. But I was more when I grew up. I watched sort of more Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy were the sort of ones I used to watch. Stan Laurel was from Ilveston, which is Cumbria, which is just like about 50-mile drive from where I live. They've got a little museum there and stuff dedicated to him. But at the time, he was just huge. Laurel and Hardy were just like as big as they come. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I was a big fan of black and white films, but I love the Three Stooges.
Well, even
Same.
even them, I think they even had like little shows about the Mr. Hitler.
Oh yeah, they'd had a few like
Even
you
Bugs
Nazi
Bunny
spy.
too. Bugs Bunny too. It's like I was like, what the hell? All these things I found, I was like, wait a second, what's going on here?
Yeah, Three Stooges holds a special place in my heart. Like when I was younger, my parents were young parents, right?
Yep.
And they kind of like to party, so I never really had a bedtime.
Right.
But like they'd be like, the only TV besides the living room TV was like one of those little box TVs with the VHS player in it, like the combo ones. But they had one in their bedroom. So they're like, all right, well, here's a bunch of snacks. Mommy and Dad are going to be hanging out with their friends. All right. So here's a TV. And it was back when there was like only like 8 channels.
Yeah.
And I would stay up all night until I fell asleep on their bed or until they finally went to bed at who knows what time. Just watching Three Stooges, Twilight Zone, I Love Lucy, like all the black and white stuff.
Oh man.
So like anytime I see those shows, I get some weird nostalgia, like, oh, this is kind of where I became me, like sitting alone and just like very Cable Guy-esque in a way. You know what I mean? So,
How about Honeymooners?
I never really got into that show.
Oh no. Yeah,
it would be on every now and then, but I mean, well, there's something about it. Three Stooges were just so slapstick and great that as a 5-6-year-old kid.
Yeah, it was such a quality back then. It was, today's comedy, it's like just anger and hostility. I mean, you'll get some good gems, don't get me wrong, but back then the comedy was just it was just natural. It was things that everybody can relate to.
It was innocent stuff. I mean, obviously Three Stooges were hitting the hell out of each other and stuff, but it was silly, slapstick, stupid sort of humour. It was harmless, wasn't it? It wasn't satirical. Well, it was satirical, but it wasn't as edgy as sort of horror as comedy is. Sorry, these days, It was like I say, it's quite. I'd quite happily let Holly, my 7-year-old, sit and watch a Three Stooges shot, and she'd probably find it very funny as well.
Yeah.
Welcome to the horror podcast where we talk about black and white comedy
and Three Stooges. Yeah. Wait,
banana bit.
I actually have a couple of questions. I just got thrown off because I think Gary was doing some dishes.
Yeah, sorry, man. I just made a bottle for my daughter.
No, I'm just kidding.
My 7-month-old's just started crying. I just made a bottle.
No, Kelly just said in the chat room. She said, "Is somebody doing the dishes?"
Yes, it was me. Apologies, Kelly. It was me making the daughter a bottle.
Here's some questions. How long does it take to do the designs for Aphotic Realm?
It depends. Depends how much trouble it wants to give me. Like, I look at it as a living thing sometimes. Like, I really want to punch my computer screen in the face. But I like to give myself 3 weeks just because day job and other stuff, and I'll sit down and crack out on it a couple hours here and there. Every issue, I'm getting a little faster at it and a little better. Also, we try to do like a design kind of unique to each story. So it really depends on like trying to find that image that portrays it, since we have the title card for each one. And sometimes it's like you have a really weird story and it's like, how are we going to portray this and do it justice in a way that we're not giving away anything in the story, but we also want to like set a mood. Yeah. And we've got like criticisms on both sides. Like, we don't like the colored pages, or we actually love the colored pages. But I like the colored pages because I think I try to find the color scheme for each story that kind of, I don't know, colors put you in a mood. I'm a big believer of that. So, if you're reading like a splatterpunk story, a nice red and black is probably going to maybe subconsciously put you in the headspace to enjoy that story a little more. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, about cool. 3-ish weeks I give myself. So.
All right, 3. Yeah, because that's. I mean, I know what you mean about the computers giving you shit. Because like when I'm trying to format something for YouTube or some picture that I was doing, and it's like it just doesn't want to work. And then you got, So you take the time. You take the time. You said you take like 2 or 3 hours, but sometimes I'm doing it on the subway, and it's like the train's bumping around, and
Yeah.
I'm worried about going, heading into work, and I know what you mean about if it, getting it.
And thank God for Dustin, because he's like the tech guy. That's basically what he does for a day job, is on a computer all day.
Yeah.
So without him, there'd be literally nothing. Because my website, personal website blog, the Ugly and Horrible one, is so half-assed right now. Like I spent like an hour trying to mess with the banner, and then it like screwed up everything on the page.
Yeah, it changes everything else.
Screw this.
Yeah.
Like every now and then, Dustin will get a text from me, and I'll be like, Dustin. Like,
it's like it can't be just like plug and play, man. These things are like you have to know code now to just make a freaking website.
Yeah, I'll eventually get around to that. I have a bunch of stupid pre-made book covers I want to put up on there, and blah 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 blah. Kind of just consolidate all my creative endeavors. But when I sit down to work on it, I just get overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't even know where to start right now. So
yeah, I'm just not motivated at all by my website. I can't be fussed with it. I know I should have it. It's not been updated for about a year, and I know I should really work on it, and I should update it because that's probably where people are going to go if they want to read my stuff. But
yeah, at least for like links, just links to the places.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, give me a deadline to work on a story, and I'm all over it, and I'm really motivated by it.
And that's the thing. Like, I have no deadline. Yeah. I'm very deadline oriented.
Yeah.
It's just an open-ended deadline for. Oh, and speaking of that, just to throw that out there, the Grimdark Grimoires from Aphotic Realm. We were open-ended because it was like whenever we get the stories we want, we'll get them. You know what I mean? And then we'll. Figure it out. We'll set a release date. Well, we like 2, 3, 4 trickled in. 2 of them didn't even meet the requirement, like the word count requirements. So we set the, I think it was May 15th is the deadline for that. And since we posted that deadline, we got a good handful more. So anyone that's looking for that anthology, you can go to our website and check that out. I'll be editing that one myself. So. Good stuff.
Very cool. What other aphotic sort of projects can you reveal at this moment? Is there anything you can anything coming up, any themes or any new publications you're allowed to sort of mention at the moment, or is it still sort of under?
There's some stuff. There's a couple authors that we're working with closely. Not sure what's going to come to fruition with them, but we're working with them closely. Dustin, Chris, and I we're co-authoring a book right now.
Wow.
And there's no like set release date, but we've had set deadlines. That's what all those writing sprints we're doing are.
Yeah.
Because we're hitting weekly word counts. Because then after we hit those word counts, we're going to swap and workshop each other's things because it has to be one cohesive story.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of splitting it up into 3 parts.
Cool.
The working title for that is Seasick. That's not the title, but it's just called Seasick. It's like a dark fantasy horror.
Cool.
There's that.
Fantasy and horror can definitely go together.
Well, that's Chris's forte. Like, I met him because he's my dungeon master.
What?
Through Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, not that kind of dungeon master. I can't afford that kind of dungeon as much as I want to. So. But yeah, no. Chris.
Sorry, go on.
Chris has incredible world building skills. He's in his. I hope he doesn't kill me. I think he's in his late 30s, but he's been dungeon mastering D&D games since he was like a teenager. So he has, binders and binders upon notebooks and notebooks of this world he's built.
Yeah.
It rivals the Silmarillion from Tolkien, essentially. Like, he has all this lore and backstory and historical events and all this crazy shit going on. So basically he set up this premise and we're kind of we're in his playground, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So.
That's really ambitious. A 3-way horror story is really ambitious. I mean, I've collaborated before with one other person, and it's been interesting. But I can't imagine doing it with 3. It's hard enough getting a cohesive voice with 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the way we have it worked out, I think it's going to work because it is all one story, but it's 3 separate main characters. Yeah. So we do get our own perspective and our own voice in a way. It's just really making sure all the plot points and everything line up perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
because if we were all 3 writing like one character, I'd blow my head off already. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
all 3 of us have such different writing styles, and they're all unique in their own way. But it just wouldn't work if you're following one dude. It'd be like watching one of those crazy art house films where like the director changes halfway through the movie. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But there's that, and then Dystopia, the next issue.
Oh yeah,
submissions are open for that. So
when do they close?
June 15th.
So I've got a bit of time. I really like the idea of writing something like that. At the moment, I'm really, really busy with a couple of other little projects that I'm working on. But I saw Dystopia and I was like, actually, that's something I might like to write for.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah,
Like I'm a sci-fi nut, so
yeah.
I mean, Classified was very sci-fi oriented as well, but because we're not really a horror publication. We published a lot of horror, but it just has to be strange or sinister in nature. It doesn't have to be horror at all. It could just be like a really weird sci-fi story. You know what I mean?
I just like more like Twilight Zone. Is that how you identify stuff, or an outer limits sort of?
Yeah, and what's funny about that is when we were thinking of names for it, we came up with Aphotic Realm, and then I think after we started the website and everything, like 2 days later, I was like, "Holy shit, that's just a synonym for Twilight Zone." I was like, "That's some weird subconscious thing that creeped up." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, they both essentially mean like lack of light or no light or whatever.
Yeah.
Realm zone, and I was like, okay,
that's true. That's crazy.
I guess we already have like a pre-made kind of like aesthetic to work with in a way, like a modernized Twilight Zone. So.
Yeah, and that's wonderful when that happens. It's it's just something it just works itself out for you. It's like a gift almost that you didn't even know was there. For the Dystopia edition, is that sort of like you ever saw the final Night of the Living Dead, the one where they're like all the rich people are holed up in a building or something, and the dead are kind of sort of getting smarts, and I think one of the posters was like them coming out of the water.
Is that one with Bud?
I think
Bud the zombie.
Yeah, he's like he's leading all the other ones. He's like
that
that smart.
I saw that movie a long time ago. I'm so overwhelmed with zombies lately that I usually just kind of stay away from the zombies now.
Yeah, I know. And I still see people coming out with zombie stories and novels, and I'm like, it's one thing to have one or two, and then you're just reading it, or maybe there's a different take on it, but then it's, you start reading it, and it's the same freaking thing. It starts exactly the same point, that every other zombie novel starts.
And that's our thing. Like, for Dystopia, I even say, like, and maybe some zombies in the guidelines. Because I'm not ruling it out, but if you're going to send a zombie story in, I got to be hooked, and you got to have this unique take on it that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to publish a knockoff of a Living Dead film, or something that could be an episode of Walking Dead. I really don't care. Like, give me a good twist.
That's the thing. That's what really makes it. Like anybody, I'm a firm believer that any horror trope can be redone right now. It's just the way you do it and from what perspective. There was one that was pretty good that I read just recently. I totally forgot the name. I think it's Where the Dead Go to Die or something. And it's basically like zombies are among us, and they have, like, I think it was like they have rights and everything, but they were fighting for it, and it was from a different perspective, and I was just like, it really, I think obviously my mind is just a jumble right now, but
it's just like a Gary story from Banished. That was a zombie story.
Yeah,
and you didn't really know it was a zombie story until almost halfway in, and you're like, oh damn, he's a zombie. You know what I mean? Because you're reading it and you're like, oh, he came back to life. Okay. And then you realize that, when he doesn't really have too much control of his body and can't really speak, and then has this weird bloodlust, you're like, oh, that's cool. You don't really hear stories from the point of view of the zombie.
Yeah, it's not saying, hey, I'm a zombie novel. It's just like he's a zombie, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
those are the ones that can really. I mean, The Walking Dead they lost half of their audience. I think it was like 15 million, and now it's like at 6 million. I mean, it's still one of the top shows. I think they said Breaking Bad at its best was like 2 million, so it's still doing pretty damn good. But it's starting to show its age, starting to slow down.
I still watch it because I invested way too much time in it.
Yeah,
same there. Yeah.
And what's a year? What's an hour out of my week? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I'll watch it and I'll be like, basically, my wife and I just go, "Are you kidding me?" Like 5 times an episode. Like, really? That's what they're gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good job, Rick. Just waste all your bullets on that car.
Yeah.
Don't wait till it gets out or anything. It's not like you're in short supply of ammunition or anything, asshole.
We kind of get
I get so mad when I talk about it. So
yeah. We'll get our phones out and start looking at our phones. It's like, and then that you're in one of these filler episodes. It's just crap.
Yeah.
See, like in school, we had to write. Dustin and I had to write a spec script for a Walking Dead episode, right?
Yeah.
And mine consisted of Eugene, because I read the comics and stuff, and this was way before this happened. But I was like, this Eugene is going to make bullets, for them, because in the season they just found that factory where Abraham and him had like a fallout, right?
Yeah.
And the teacher ended up calling me and making me rewrite a bunch of stuff because it wasn't realistic enough about how he was making bullets. And I was like, well, we don't really have to see him making bullets. He's like, oh, you have to get the exact terminology down. And I was like, okay. And then now I'm watching this season, and they're just like throwing shells at him. They're like, make bullets.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, this is so stupid.
Unbelievable.
So,
and the funny thing is, I know, and this is what I hate when sometimes people do this. I know what she's talking about because I read it somewhere. They said that you have to do the research, but then you don't use all the research because it has to sound natural. So you're doing all this research just to understand, what you're getting into and stuff. And you may use a few, pieces of information here and there, but you really don't have to explain. That's like a Dean Koontz novel. You explain every little, like how the casing is shaped and what goes inside and the little device that pushes the bullet inside, and it's like you really don't need to know all that.
No, yeah, he was a stickler for sure. He actually was an actor on Days of Our Lives or some other soap opera.
Get out of here.
And he was like the main character in some like weird 70s dystopian sci-fi movie.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, our teacher. He was this older guy.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Dean Koontz, because I was saying to
Oh,
myself,
no.
I really could see that, though.
So he wrote a bunch of like television shows and stuff like that, so he was like a super stickler.
Oh,
He's like, I know what I'm talking about. And it was like, ugh. I mean, Dustin could attest to that guy. Like, we'd have workshops where he'd pull up someone's script and he'd eat them apart in front of like the whole class. And it was like,
man.
When it's your turn, you're sitting there and you're sweating bullets and you're like, oh God, don't pick out, like he'll pick out the littlest thing and it'll be a 20-minute conversation and he'll pull up Google and he'll be like, this isn't correct. Blah, 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 blah. The size of a yacht is 20 feet, not 30 or whatever the hell it is. Random things like that. And you're like, dude, it doesn't matter. But okay, yeah.
Oh,
not in a script. That's what a production's for,
Yeah.
You just write boat, and then the production people find a boat. Like, I don't have to get so detailed with it. So
we were just talking about that with Kelly in the chat room. That she was talking about like how deep should she go into like the like how that people talk and everything, and the dialect of the time. And I told her, I said, there will be people out there that will rip apart every single piece of your story just to get the fact, like, oh, this isn't factual, oh, that's not factual, and they'll, I mean, I know they say bad publicity is good publicity too, but there are those people out there that they'll be like sticklers for it.
I don't know, my take on that, like, because I read a lot of sci-fi, is I like when they'll get into like the science of something, right? Of the mechanism. But if it becomes like they're just trying to just drop so much crap on my lap,
Yeah.
like the scientific nature of it all, then it gets a little drag. Like throw out a bit here and there, like a little nod, like okay, they know what they're talking about. But you know, when it basically starts reading like a textbook,
Yeah.
is when I'm just like, oh my god, like get back to the story. I understand you got this weird propulsion rocket thing going on, but you know, so.
I think there's a time and a place for it, isn't there? There's a time and a place for stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not against it, but if it's a block of text that's just showing off how much you know about said subject, then it just starts reading like a Wikipedia article. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, that's not saying like the dialect and, you know, maybe like references to the actual world they're in. That's one thing. But if you have to explain something that's not common knowledge, I would do it in little nuggets. I wouldn't do the wall of text thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. Because then you get, you don't get me wrong. I still do. I love Dean Koontz, but that's him. You know, it's like some people just have their thing. You know, but when you start even Stephen King, like in his later books, he stopped doing the 50 pages of textbook before he got into the actual story. A lot of his stuff jumps in faster now. I mean, it's still Stephen King, and that's you know, if you like Stephen King, that's what you came for. But a lot of the trend that's going today is just like getting into the story and then throwing, like you said, the little nuggets to explain the bigger picture of what they're doing or what's happening. And then so this way, it's like the person can't even see it's being built in front of them. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Just spread the nuggets out. You know what I mean? Like.
Which like I've
been reading a lot of James S.A. Corey, like The Expanse. Like I'm really into that book series right now, and they do it perfectly. Like so, if they need to introduce something that's not common knowledge, like how the physics of this thing works, or whatever, they'll spread it out with either a little dialogue or a little description here and there. But they'll end up explaining one thing over like 3 chapters.
Yeah,
intermingled with the story. You know what I mean? So you're kind of not sure what the hell they're talking about at first, but by the time it actually matters, you know what they're talking about.
Well, you know what's funny too? There was a blog post I think I did last week about like just perception, like what the person thinks in their head. So sometimes you can use keywords, and a person can get an idea of an object, but they don't know what that object exactly is yet. But they have an idea of what the object is and what it does in that scene. And then, like you said, as the nuggets keep coming, they'll understand more and like, oh, that's what that is. And then you'll see that it's also, you're seeing it from the point of view of somebody who's seen that object for the first time. So it's sort of a natural process that's going on. That's
exactly.
Actually, that's cool that you said that.
Yeah, you want, if you're gonna put in like a plot device or like a set piece into your story, something important, you want the reader to have the epiphany of what it is and what it does, like right at the moment that it's going to be utilized, because then you're rewarding your reader.
Yeah.
Your reader go, oh, I'm such a smart dude, or oh, I figured it out. Like, oh, it all makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I see a lot of stories where something will happen with whatever it may be, and you don't know what the hell's going on until the end, and the writer's thinking that they were clever, but it's like I was just kind of wandering in the dark here for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
it's really hard to do that effectively. It's to touch that as a writer. It's so difficult.
Well, because you don't want to be blunt and just say what it is, and then it's just a cut and dry story. But you want to, I don't know, you got to have that air of mystery of what's going on, but you got to let the reader know exactly what's going on right when it matters.
Yeah.
Like, because retroactively explaining things is like, it works in some stories, but I just don't dig it. I don't like reading a whole story, not exactly sure what's going on, and then they sum it all up at the end.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
yeah,
like your story in Banished was a perfect example of that. You didn't say he's dead, he's whatever. You gave us little nuggets. You know what I mean? Like his eyes falling out or whatever it was, and the rat's nibbling on his finger and he doesn't feel it. And and I was like, okay, what's going on? And by the time we realize he's a zombie, it's like he's eating that dude. You know what I mean?
So, I was really scared of sending that actually, because I started writing it and I sat down and wrote the first draft in like one session, and I thought, do I really want to send this? Because I was really conscious of it being. You're looking at it going, oh, it's a zombie story. You know, I was really, really conscious of that. And I was like, you know, but I think you worked out okay. You accepted it.
No, I liked it. Like I said, it kept me transfixed to figure out what the hell's going on. And then when you finally revealed exactly what was going on, I was right there with you, and I can see the rest of the journey. You know what I mean? So.
But I wanted to sort of leave little hints in there to sort of say, right, if you wanted to read through that story again, things are explained. You know, he's not literally just been buried and become a zombie for no reason. Yeah, yeah. You know, if you read that story from the beginning, or if anyone read that story from the beginning in issue 2, there are hints there as to something not quite right about the land that he's been buried in and what's happened. And
I mean, you had the foresight too. Like, your character had a lot of inner monologue going on, and if you would have thrown in a line like, "I might be dead" or "I think I'm dead," it would have trashed the whole. It would have trashed the whole story. So the foresight not to like go too, you know what I mean. But sometimes you feel that urge to do it. Like maybe they're not getting it. Maybe I should throw this little nugget. But it's too on the nose, you know. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes you get to like the second or the third draft before you remove stuff like that. I found myself doing that with some stories I've been writing, like within the past six to 12 months. You know, you go through it and you go, right, okay, that's a little too obvious given what I know now as someone who's gone through 2 drafts of it and read it, and I understand the story inside and out. You don't really need that bit in there, you know. Whereas when you go out, I'm a bit of a pantser when it comes to writing, as I'm sure quite a lot of sort of new writers are. And you sort of you're not entirely sure where you're going to be going when you're writing.
Yeah.
But with the benefit of a second or a third draft, you know to go back and you can insert little clever, or what you think are clever references, subtle references, and you can take things out that are too bleeding obvious that just don't need to be there.
Well, like even then, like you need other eyes. Like I was on the second or third draft of Siphon, and then when Tapia was reading it, he gave me the edits back, and there'd be parts like, "Hey, you don't need to say this. Like I get it."
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know. Like I'm trying to do something really weird here and throw like little hints in, but you know, part of me, I'm reading a chapter and I go, do they get it? Like, are they still with me here? Like, you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah. Nice little segue, actually. I was literally on the cusp of asking about Siphon. I listened to it last week, I think it was.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no. You know, I was always going to read. I mean, I think you sent me like a very, very early version of it. I was like,
I sent you the second draft. Yeah,
exactly. So. And I never got around to reading all of it because I just don't have time to read physically. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And I thought you followed Pet Sematary, so you had a big act to sort of live up to. Because
well, that's great.
They've recently re-released Pet Sematary with the guy from Dexter reading it, and it's
that's
brilliant.
Like going on after Slayer as a metal band.
Exactly.
Like you guys are on that. So better
what I was
kill it.
Say,
you know what I mean? Like,
what I was going to say honestly, and this is not paying any lip service. I was listening to it, and I'm at work, and I'm working away, and I'm listening to Siphon, and I'm thinking, this is actually an audiobook. I'm listening here to a really well put together story. There's a plot, there's a theme, you know, I'm familiar with the characters. It's a good audiobook, and I was listening to it, and I really, really enjoyed it, you know, and no, hats off to you, man. I just wanted to know how it came about, and how you sort of got in the sort of Hindered Soul sort of stable, and how it happened with Tapia, and how did you get it out there?
So the initial story I started when I was like 19, when I didn't know how to write or anything. Yeah. But I had an idea that I wanted to do a vampire story without the vampire. So kind of like we were talking about earlier, the twist on a horror trope.
Oh man, can I just quickly say, I didn't realize that element of it till the very, very end. For some reason, it didn't sink in, but that was a really good thing. So otherwise, I've been like eye roll, but he did
You see the little things that I put in there.
Yeah.
Like how the ending is, like exactly how it happens. Like it's very Dracula-esque. So
yeah.
But yeah, I was writing this story, and I did not know what I was doing, like at all. I'd write it because I went for sociology when I first went to college, my first bout. So I'd go into the library and I just start writing this story. And it was just a bunch of cluttered thoughts put together. You know what I mean? Like I just had little scenes, and I didn't know format writing or anything like that. It was just like big block, unspaced text. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
But this story has just always been in my head, and for like the last 8 years, I just kind of worked out the whole thing in my brain. And I remember when I started school, I wrote like the first 3 chapters, and I got stuck, and I was like, "This is stupid. This is dumb." Blah blah. When we finished school, I finally was like, I was trying to write other stories, but I kept going back to little scenes that were in Siphon in my brain and trying to like meld them into these new stories. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna just write it like however it comes out. And I wrote it, and then I think I sent it to you, and I sent it to Tapia to like just read. And I believe Tapia was like, "Hey, I actually have I'm going to open up like novella and novel and stuff submissions here in like a month." Yeah. And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, you know, he read it, he sent me the notes, and then he was like, "I really like it." He's like, "So this is kind of like submissions aren't officially open, but let's just say accept it if you want to sign this contract." Wow. And I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, I was just looking for eyes and like maybe some edits at first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, Tapia ripped it apart. I rewrote some of it and fixed it and edited it, and then the rest comes from here. I mean, I did the book cover. Like, it's really nice because he let it be my baby in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he put it on his platform, but he let me like really, because I'm a control freak. Right. So I was like, I don't want someone else doing my cover, and you know what I mean? It's like, but yeah. So that's just really how it came about. So.
That makes it easy for him too.
Yeah, and I mean he's been nothing but supportive. So like you guys with kids, man, I don't understand it. Like I don't have kids, and I still can't find time to do anything. So like, you know what I mean? Like,
you know, it's quite funny when I was listening to it. I thought this is a Tapia style story, because I think Gary Phillips isn't a particularly nice person. Is that fair to say? Would you say? I don't think he's a particularly sort of happy-go-lucky type guy.
No, you can tell he wants to be though. Yeah. So, yeah, I read I bought Di-Fi from Tapia when I first joined this little group, the little Twitter group. And I read it in one sitting, and I was reading it, and I was like, oh man, and I think I was like 5 chapters into Siphon then, like just kind of touch and go with it. And I was like, oh man, like we kind of have the same story style in a way. I was like, so if I send this to him, he's really going to help me like refine my voice a little bit.
Yeah,
he'll know what I'm going for. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
exactly. There's the drugs, there's the action, there's the, you know,
it's a transgressive nature. You know what I mean? Like just the flawed human being trying to work his way through life. So
exactly, yeah. You did good, man. It's a good story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that. It is. I'll listen to it again. You know.
Well, better, man. I'm just kidding.
So did you have to get on Tapia's casting couch then? Or
well, we're in 2 different states, since I know you don't know the geography of the United States, but I mean,
I had to get a plane, but
there is Skype, so.
And, what is it?
I mean, you've seen those digital fleshlights, right? That like that mock the motions of the person on the other side.
And writers have good imaginations.
I suggested that, and Tapia's just going to take it out of my royalties. So
there you go. Tapia's like, how much do you want to be a published author? How much?
Like, God damn, I can publish my own. I have a print.
Harder.
No, but now that like Siphon's done, it's sparked a whole array of stories, because it takes place in my fictional, basically kind of like what's Stephen King's one, Castle Rock or whatever.
Yeah, Castle Rock.
Yeah, so Claybrook City is kind of like that. That was my whole goal to begin with. It's a city where really messed up stuff happens all the time.
Is it close to Arizona? Like, is it close to where you are, or is it based off of any location?
No, it's surrounded by forests and stuff. It's kind of like this little hidden gem type thing, like little creepy city, like Metropolis. But if you I know that this doesn't do justice now because the stories aren't done, but if you go back and listen to Siphon, there's like little bits in it that kind of seem out of place, but those are actually intertwining stories with other characters, like the girl at the gas station.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or when he forgets that blood sample that his boss told him, and he says the name out loud. He's like, "Who is that again?" Like,
yeah.
The girl has to go get her blood tested at a hospital. So I basically have about 3 more stories in the work that all take place in the same like week span as Siphon, but they intertwine. The characters intertwine with each other. So in weird like little nuance ways.
Cool. I was going to say, what's the next? What's the plans for you as an author next? What are you going to move on to after this? Is there something in the works in terms of? There's a publication date for. Is there a publication date for any of them, or is it just currently just writing? Or
it's just writing. I don't want to overwhelm myself because all the Aphotic Realm stuff. I'm writing with Chris and Dustin on that one dark fantasy horror. Mm-hmm. And then I have another one in the works. The working title is Cool Kids Club, and it's very, very, very touchy. I mean, you could be.
Well, I think me and Will have been in about 10 different stories.
I mean, the Cool Kids Club might end my career, my very short career, because it touches with a lot of stuff that's going on in the United States right now via schools. If I can that's why it's called the Cool Kids Club.
You know what they say though. I mean, bad publicity is good publicity. I mean, even if you get people hating it or like it's. I mean, look at Stephen King wrote a book about that. I think it was called Apt Pupil.
Yes.
Or was it Rage? That's not it, right?
No, there was one called Rage that he did about school shootings.
That's right. Rage. Yeah.
Apt Pupil is the one about the World War. His grandfather was a Nazi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but Rage. Yeah.
Mine is not like it's not condoning it. Mm-hmm. It's actually the main character of this one is not Gary Phillips-esque. He's a hero in the story. So the Cool Kids Club are the antagonists essentially.
No, that sounds really. So that's something I'd read. That I find sort of stuff like that quite interesting. I think the whole school shooting thing is really frightening. It's something that sort of sweeps the sort of horror cobwebs at the back of my mind. You know, I remember being a kid when there was a Dunblane shooting in Scotland, and a guy who was like a scout group leader just walked into a Scottish school and just killed, I don't know, 14 kids or something. They were all about 5 or 6 years old.
Jesus.
And the teacher as well. And that completely changed gun law over in the UK. And since then, we've not had another school shooting. That was 2006, I think. Oh, no, no, sorry, 1996.
It's a weird, touchy subject here. Like, just yesterday, I was sitting out back, and there was a sheriff helicopter circling, right? I was like, what the hell? And my wife was like, what is that noise? She's like, I thought it was like a garbage truck driving by over and over again. So we go out, so I'm like, there's whatever. So we walk down the street. There's a elementary school a block away from me.
Yeah.
And there's 15 cop cars blocking it. We were literally blocked in our neighborhood for about an hour. Damn. And then come to find out there was a dude with a rifle running through the school.
Oh my
wow.
So it's like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? They caught him. But like, it was like, what is, you see it on the news, and then you're like, oh, that's crazy. But I don't think he shot anyone. I think he was just running through the school. I think he tried to rob someone's house.
Oh, right. He was just trying to escape.
But nonetheless, they're going to spin it that way. He's in the school was in session. It was like 1 PM.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah.
In my mind, guns, whatever your view on guns and gun control or whatever your opinion is, in my mind, guns and school just do not mix. The two things are just, it's like vinegar and oil in my mind. They should not be together. You should not have children where there's guns.
Well, let's put it this way though. You
don't use vinegar and oil for your French bread?
Well, I do, but
I was like, they do go together very well.
They do. You just make me sound like a hypocrite now.
I'm just saying. I know what you're saying.
They just don't mix.
Yeah, but you do want that. You do want that armed guard that's going to block you from the guy with the gun.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to school.
I don't
in
like
the
the idea
Bronx.
of Yeah. I don't like the idea of this thing that, I mean, we're getting a little bit political here, but I don't like the idea of that's being sort of pushed of teachers having guns. Yeah. If I was a teacher, why the hell would I? You know,
exactly.
my primary thing is to teach. You know, empower and teach these kids. Would it be within your pay grade to carry a gun and suddenly become like Bruce Willis out of Die Hard as soon as someone came in, you know, with the gun? That shouldn't be part of your responsibility.
No,
and if
it definitely shouldn't. No.
Do you know what I mean?
If they know how to, like, if they can hold a gun, like if they want to, that's a different story. But I do think that there should be at least an armed someone standing somewhere around the school, like guarding it. Like, I went to school in the Bronx, so all the doors were shut. The gate, you know, some of the windows were gated, most of them. We had metal detectors going into the school. No shit, I'm not lying. And they still somehow figured how to get shit into the school. Like, you know, it's just it was just a way of life back then. That was like 20 years ago, and now it's, you know, metal detectors and guards. You know, any place that's vulnerable, it's going to be a target for someone. You know.
I don't know. I'm on the fence completely with this whole subject. I try not to get involved because I do live in Arizona, and guns are just a thing here.
Yeah.
And if you disagreed, you get shot.
No. Like, it's weird because, I mean, I have friends that come from like other states where it's not so lax, and they'll get like friends from like say like Portland, Oregon, or Seattle or something like that, and they'll come here and they're weirded out that, you know, a whole gang of dudes will come in with, you know, pistols on their hips.
Yeah.
They're like, they get a little uneasy, and I was like, dude, they just got pistols. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, you're literally, we're like a couple hours from Tombstone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's.
I suppose part of it is cultural, isn't it? You know, and the United States is such a big country, and I was saying to Will on one of the other podcasts how, you know, it's almost like Europe in that there's lots of different countries and lots of different cultures and lots of different, you know, just under the same flag or whatever.
Yeah.
I grew up around guns. My dad had shotguns. He didn't have rifles or anything like that, but he still has a shotgun license. He buys Berettas. He's got, you know, but in order to get a shotgun in England, you have to be 1 over 18 years old. You can't have a criminal record.
Yeah.
When you buy a shotgun, a police person comes to your house. You have to have a locker which is drilled and sort of attached to your wall physically. You can't remove it. And you have a separate locker where you keep your ammunition, and that's renewed every year. And every year a policeman comes. He's only there for 5 minutes, or she's only there for 5 minutes, and they just check your house, make sure how many guns you've got, make sure it tallies against the record. And there's a waiting time as well when you buy guns. But I grew up around guns. You know, it's not you know, unfamiliar to me, but as someone who's English, I'm not around that. When I first went to America and went to Florida, and we turned up at the airport, and you have policemen even there with guns on display.
Yeah,
and it was just something that I'm not used to, and it is very strange. And I can send my daughters to school here, and there's 1,000,001 things I need to worry about what they're going to do when they're at school. But guns is definitely not one of them. But I completely sort of understand it. It's a cultural thing, and it's, you know, it's written into, is it one of your amendments or
Second
Amendment? But I suppose an amendment's an amendment because it's an amendment. You know, you can amend an amendment.
Well, one of my whole outlook on it is like, yeah, something needs to be done, but I'm not the dude to do it, right? Yeah. So I just have that thought, like, something needs to be done. I'm not about taking away guns. I'm not about a way, you know, I don't fall on either side of the fence. It's just like, you know, something needs to be done. Like, there's a billion voices on social media in the world screaming for this thing or that thing, or, you know, we should do this and you should do that. And, you know, fuck conservatives, fuck liberals, blah, blah, blah. I literally walk straight down the middle of that line. I'm conservative on a lot of things. I'm liberal on a lot of things. When it comes to guns, it's like, yeah, I don't care if you have guns, but if you did take away the guns, there's, I think it was something like 3 or 4 more guns than people in the United States. You're going to get guns. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah,
I have friends that have, you know, they were stupid in their early years, and somehow they still have a pistol, and they got it because their girlfriend's dad's uncle's cousin bought it for them and gave it to them because he gave him an extra $100. You know what I mean? Like, you're never gonna get rid of guns. If you do make it harder to get, people are still gonna get it, and then the people that should have them won't have them.
Yeah.
I mean, have your guns. You know what I mean? If you want a gun, have a gun, but there's got to be some sort of policing of it. You know, if you've got some sort of mental health issue that means that, you know, maybe having a gun's not such a good idea, or
that's
you know, why would you need?
That's what I didn't understand.
Why do you need an automatic rifle? Why do you need an automatic gun?
Well, for the
you know
zombie
why? If you're
apocalypse,
going to be shooting deer or whatever. Obviously, but
no, but
you know, a deer. You're not going to have an army of deer running at you, are you? You know what I mean? Just why would you need an automatic weapon or even a semi-automatic weapon? You know what I mean? Unless you're in the armed forces. But
I thought about that.
I
thought about that.
Sorry,
with the automatic weapon. If there was riots or something, let's just say something really bad hit the fan, right? And there was like people that wanted to get into your house, and it wasn't just one or two. It was like a whole group. In that situation, I would say you'd probably want something a little more automatic. But I was thinking about that. I mean, is that going to happen? Who knows? You know, it's probably not.
No.
But the whole gun thing, where that kid just walked into the place, I think at 18, and can just, without like any checks or license, can just buy the AK. Now that's dumb. That doesn't make any freaking sense, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're telling people to disarm, and you're not going to get illegal guns to disarm. You're not going to get illegal guns out of the system, like Adrian just said. There's always going to be a way to get these illegal guns. So, you know, disarming the people who've gone through background checks and have gone through, you know, that's the ones that they're gonna go after first, because they know they're gonna say they're gonna be compliant with the law. You know, I mean, common sense wise, you know, you have to just have harder ways to get these guns, so certain people can't get them. But you're always gonna have the bad element getting, you know, criminals getting guns.
But like, say for example, there was regulation in terms of, you know, AA Medina has a massive gun, which we all know anyway. But you know, he's got a gun. He then, you know, that gun has to be registered to him. He has to have it checked annually, for example.
Yeah.
You know,
which is pretty much what happens. I think you have to renew your license every year and everything.
But then Mr. Medina decides to give it to his mentally unstable nephew, Dustin. So it has this really dangerous gun. It gives it to Dustin. Dustin gives it to one of his undesirable friends, who then goes and shoots up a school. Right?
Okay,
Right. So if that happens, then the law should be, or the rules should be, that at some point along the line, going back, the original A.A. Medina is slightly, you know, there's some sort of culpability there, because he should not, under law, be then taking that gun and then passing it on to someone else.
Which I believe is the law, because what happens is they have the number on it. It has like I forgot what that number is.
The serial number?
Yeah. So there's a serial number on the gun, and that's licensed to him. So whoever has that gun, once they find out whose gun that is, I'm pretty sure that person is going to get in big fucking trouble.
People scratch that off, though.
Well, I mean, but that's hard to do, and sometimes they can find out, like the bullets that went into whoever. That when they pick that stuff up, they can see the scratches of the bullet and the scratch and the piece in the barrel that made the scratch, and they can still trace the gun, you know, back to whoever. It's like forensics is crazy these days. So see,
that's all retroactively figuring it out after the damage has been done. Like like whatever they figure out, the only thing that this is doing to this country that makes me kind of upset, it's very dystopian. The fact that we have to have a discussion about people with guns in school, we have to have a discussion about armed guards, where education should be, you know, not altered at all, not altered, but uninterrupted. It should just be, you know, education for the youth and stuff like that. We have to talk about guns and stuff. It's very dystopian. You start thinking about those old sci-fi movies where, you know, like very Blade Runner-esque, where corporations run everything, and that's what it's really coming down to now. It's like it's these conversations are like, what's the good and bad? Where's the, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it's just those conversations in general. The fact that we're having them, they need to be had, but the fact that we're having them, it's automatically like a shit direction.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, as an English person, I'd never presume to tell Americans how they should go about it, because I've been to America, but I've never lived there, and I'm not part of the culture. I would never presume to tell you how to deal with a problem. I just sort of look at it from sort of an objective, sort of maybe slightly naive viewpoint. I don't really see it, you know.
What makes it all really crazy is because, unlike, you know, like say like England or Britain, it's we have, you know, you have your federal government, then you have 50 state governments that have their own laws too.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, so this thing happened, like I'm in Arizona, which is across the country from New York. Oh, so this thing happened in New York, so everyone in Arizona has to pay, even though, you know what I mean? It's that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
So some crazy guy in Manhattan, you know, decided to, you know, run down the street and shoot 10 people. So that means people in Arizona that are just sitting on their porch with their, you know, rifle collecting, not hurting a person, has to give up their stuff. That's just the mentality we have of it, because it is too big. Like New York is another world to me. I might as well go to England if I go to New York.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. So just to get back on track, because I just noticed we had 9 viewers and now we have 2 because we're talking about politics.
Yeah, I didn't mean to bring it that way.
No.
Oh, sorry, that was me. Sorry.
It was actually. I mean, to be honest with you, we had a. It did, like you said, it's not left, it's not right, it's down the middle. I mean, when it's common sense discussions, I'm up for that. You know, I don't mind. It's when people get like too left and too right, and it's like, you know, that's when I just like turn off the news and I'm like, I don't want to hear this shit, you know. But I mean, it was a common sense discussion. I actually.
I know, but it's become such a thing everywhere.
Yeah.
That I didn't mean to bring it up, but that's just the topic of my next book.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of devolved into the topic of the nation at the point, which I have to have the news on at my work.
And it's good too because
requires it. Yeah, all day I have to listen to that shit all day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so because it's on CNN is on all day at my work, and it's Trump this, Trump that, guns this, gun that, and it's like I can't escape it because it's right there in front of me.
Exactly.
It plays for the customers, so I'm just like, this is horrible, you know.
It's frightening. To me, horror, you know, when you think of horror, that is absolutely terrifying to me. The idea of sending your child somewhere where they're not safe, you know, and being part of something like that. I mean, you know, sort of moving maybe away from the guns a little bit, you know, just your child being in a situation where they're absolutely not safe, you know. That's the worst possible thing in my mind. Do you remember, did you ever hear the song I Don't Like Mondays, Boomtown Rats?
No, I don't know who that is.
No.
Have you heard of Bob Geldof? Have you heard of a guy called Bob? He's like he's an Irish musician, and he started Live Aid.
I heard of Live Aid.
Over in England. Yeah. And he had a band called the Boomtown Rats, and they did a song called I Don't Like Mondays. And it's based on a shooting in America years ago, you know, back in, I mean, it must have been like the early 80s. A girl was fed up one Monday morning. She just got up and she killed like 3 or 4 kids at a school across the street from her. And when the police arrested her, they said, "Why did you do it?" And she said, "Well, I don't like Mondays." And that was the excuse. But he wrote a song about it. It's actually over here in England. It's in Britain. It's quite a well-known song, and it's a really good song. Actually, I recommend you listen to it. It is a good song. But I remember listening to it on vinyl. This is how long ago it was, with my parents, and asking my mum about what it was about, because I heard bits of the lyrics and I thought it sounded a bit strange. And she said, "Well, it's about a girl who sort of did bad things to kids." And I remember my heart sinking, and that's the first sort of experience I had of horror, really, you know, as a kid, just thinking, my God, you know, why would someone do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, no, I definitely, especially Medina, who's sort of a musician himself, give it a listen. It's a good song.
I definitely will.
Yeah, I Don't Like Mondays, it's called, by the Boomtown Rats. But it's about a school shooting. But yeah, it's a good song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you guys get into horror? I'll derail us back onto.
Yeah, I grew up. My dad was big into sort of the slasher films and stuff back in the day, and he used to rent videos, and he wasn't shy about sort of me sort of seeing them.
Okay, yeah, that's the
When I
same
was-
as my family. So
Yeah, when I was quite young, and he was like, but he was only a young dad himself. Like I said that he's 20 years older than me, but he was fairly young. And yeah, you come and sit here and watch Jaws, come and sit here and watch Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street, And as a kid, I was such a wuss. I was just so scared of it. My sister, who's 2 years younger than me, used to sit and watch these films with him and really enjoy them. She'd be like, "Oh, yeah, it's really good. There's this killer doll called Chucky, and he does this, this, and this." It's like, right. And it used to the thought of it used to scare me. But it sort of came from there. And
funny story about Chucky. This was
Cool.
like my foray into it. So my parents were assholes. They same thing. Like my dad and my mom were into like slasher movies and stuff. And since I never had a bedtime, if I walked out and they're watching like a horror movie or something like that, they'd be like, "You can watch it, but if you complain that you're having bad dreams or you're scared, tough shit." You know what I mean? Like, don't come into our room at night. Don't even start crying. You know what I mean? Whatever. So I watched Child's Play, and I was like enthralled by it. But I had this Hello Buddy doll, right?
oh, right, okay.
So I left him. I went to bed. I got put to bed, and then I left him outside my room.
Yeah.
That night. The next day, he was gone, and he was in the kitchen, sitting on the kitchen table.
Oh,
right.
Shit.
So both my parents are at work. I think I was like 6 or something like that, and my older sister was watching me. But I took it, and I took a fucking knife, and I like decapitated its head out back because I was so scared of it. Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
And I threw it in one of those big gray dumpster trash can things my dad had in the backyard. So later that night, it was a school night, so I actually had to like go to bed, and I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I hear the door slam, or the lights flick on and the door slams, and the Hello Buddy doll is standing up next to my bed with his head duct taped back on.
What the?
And I literally pissed myself, and then I can hear my parents snickering outside the door.
Oh no!
And then like after I watched it, this really affected me up until I was like 19. After I watched it, I'd come home and I'd always have to take a poop after like kindergarten or like first grade or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember walking in there and my mom put a balloon in the toilet,
Oh,
like floating when I opened the door. And I could not close my eyes until I was like 18 in the shower.
Oh no!
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like they did crap like that. So
That's
it
cool.
kind of
man.
forced me, because they're like,
My dad he used to love winding me up with things. I used to be in the attic bedroom of this small terraced house, and I was on my own up there. It's pitch black, and I always had to have the light off because Mum and Dad wanted me to have the light off at night. And my dad would sort of sneak up the stairs and make me jump, and he'd sort of whisper things and like shitting, absolutely shitting your pants because you're obviously a kid. But yeah, you just sort of reminded me a little bit of. It wasn't quite that extreme, but it was a very similar thing. But in terms of literature, what the first sort of scary book I read was It, when I was about 12 or 13, and I also read The Amityville Horror by J. Anson, which was even scarier to me at the time because it was quote unquote a true story. Next door neighbour had moved house, and it literally had a big box load of old books that they had, and they were all horror books. They must have been really into reading horror, Stephen King and such. So one of them's actually first edition. I don't know what happened to it, but I'm really gutted I didn't keep it. But anyway, long story short, they gave me this box and I started reading through it. Mum and Dad didn't read much themselves, so they were like, yeah, just go read it. And It and Amityville Horror were the two scariest stories I think I'd read up to that point. And yeah, it really stuck with me, like to the point of having nightmares and such. So it went from there, but I think most of my horror background is in the movies and in notable films. Like the latest story I've had out in Unnerving, Porcelain Skin, was based on a film called Dolls, which came out in like 1987, I think, by a guy called Stuart Gordon who did Reanimator, and that's when I watched it back since. It's such a cheesy. sort of 80s horror film, with punks in it, and they're British, but they're not really British. They're American actors being British, so they sound a little bit like Dick Van Dyke, and all right there, Governor, I'm a punk, I is. I'm gonna shoot these dolls, I am, and then it's a bit like that. But when I was like 13 or 14, when I first saw it, it was really, really scary. I mean, some of it was all sort of stop motion effects, and I think in some ways that made it even scarier, So so Porcelain Skin was based on that. So my background's the movies, so that's where I started. So where did you start, Adrian, in terms of
it probably
was it your parents? Yeah,
but they used to just the movies kind of scared me, especially because they tormented me afterwards in theme of said movie. But the one that really kicked it off, it was the love for sci-fi and horror. I think I was like 13, and I finally sat down and watched Alien.
Right.
And I wasn't scared. I was just like completely immersed. You know what I mean? Like I loved the cheesy 80s, like late 70s, 80s, like visual aesthetic of all like the random buttons that don't do anything everywhere, and the fact that they're crawling through like little air duct tunnels with this really it's so dark that you just get glimpses of the xenomorph.
Yeah.
Like there's that impending doom the whole time, and the fact that you are stuck on a spaceship. There's literally nowhere to go.
It's like claustrophobic.
Oh yeah, and then I completely fell in love with the franchise. Like right now, like obviously I've seen all of them, even Resurrection, like 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I own stacks upon stacks of Alien comic books from Dark Horse and stuff like that. Like just
really cool, actually.
Yeah, just the lore of the world is great. And that's really where it kind of started. Not too much literary horror I'm into, actually. I read more sci-fi, but I like comic book horror a lot. Like, did you ever get around to reading Uzumaki, Gary?
I did. I've got what's it called? Spiral. What's the name?
Uzumaki.
Yeah, that's the one. yeah. by Ito, is it Shinji Ito?
Junji Ito, yeah.
Yeah. Uzumaki is fantastic. Yeah.
When I picked that up, I was like, oh, this horror can be a comic. You know what I mean? Like, it's the right type of strange, and then it has its own body horror in it and stuff.
Oh, the body horror bits, the snail one made me really cringe.
Oh yeah.
The story about the snail, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through that.
Okay. I was about to tell you my favorite part, but I won't spoil it because it's toward the end.
Don't. No. Lisa bought it for Christmas, and I had this little sort of mini tradition where when she was bathing the kids, I'd lie on the bed and sort of have a read of it for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I've sort of neglected it a little bit in recent weeks and months. But it's really good, and I love Japanese horror anyway. I'm well into the Japanese culture and stuff. So when you sort of I asked for a recommendation on Twitter, and when you sort of said that, it was a bit of a brainer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to see different cultural takes on horror as well, And
what's funny is he's a dentist. Like, he was a dentist.
Really?
When he wrote that, yeah. So he wrote and drew it and was a dentist in Japan, which they work like, I don't know, 25 hours a day. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Like, he's basically called like the Stephen King of Japan. So
wow, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Insane stuff.
There's also the old DC Comics horror as well. I've got Shadows of the Grave. Is it? I've got one of the old DC Comics ones. I've got a new one. Actually, the new one might be Shadows of the Grave. I'll have to just look it up when I'm talking to you now. But I recently got another horror one. They got the Dark Horse Book of Horror as well, in terms of like horror graphic novels, and they're all really good.
I love Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Because they usually buy up properties and they expand the lore. So I have a bunch of Predator Dark Horse books and Star Wars Dark Horse books and Alien. You know what I mean? Like Judge Dredd. No, that's not. That's 2000 AD. Sorry. But I have those too. So,
I mean, Judge Dredd was another sort of first for me in terms of horror. There was an annual my grandparents bought me for some reason when I was about 9 years old. It was 2000 AD, and they just thought, oh, it's a comic, and it was Judge Dredd, and it had Judge Death in it. and it was horrible, man. It was traumatizing. You know, it was.
Have you seen the new
really,
one?
I've not at all. No.
Oh, it's
no.
so. I thought it was going to be crap, like the new
Yeah.
RoboCop.
Yeah,
oh no,
yeah.
it's they do not hold back on the gore. And it has Lena Headey, I think that's her name. She plays what's her name in Game of Thrones? The Lannister woman. What's her name? The mom.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
She's the main villain, and she does a great job. She's very like cyberpunky looking, like mess. I don't know. It's a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah, cool. I'm just looking at the new one. Is called Shadow. It's Dark Horse. It's called Shadows on the Grave. It's called the new one I've got. That's by Richard Corbin. Is it Richard Corbin? It's a collection of horror. It's a bit Twilight Zone-y. I got that fairly recently. But yeah, that might be one to have a look at. I've got one called Itch by A.A. Medina, whoever that is. What else I've got? I'm just looking at my Kindle.
That one is Itch is weird. I had all these like half finished short stories, and then like maybe a short story I did like a year or two ago, and I was like, I want to do like a little promo for Siphon before it comes out. So I basically went through and revamped the 5 or 6 stories that are in there, and then included the first chapter of Siphon at the end. Yeah. So, I mean, I like it, but part of me goes, did I really have to release those stories? Like, because they're like little one-offs, you know what I mean? So
yeah. I must admit, I've not read it yet. I've got it here. And again, if it was an audio book, it'd be like read tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I did get it. Just looking. Widow's Point, I've got that. I'm just sort of going through my Kindle library.
Well, speaking of Widow's Point, that was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you. So how did you get about talking to Richard Chismar for the interview?
That was all Dustin, man.
Yeah? Oh, wow.
That was all Dustin. He was his journalism skills of hunting people down are like insane. Wow. Like I go as far as I'll send one email and then I won't look at my computer for 2 weeks because I'm nervous that they responded. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like that weird digital social anxiety going on. But yeah, every interview we've had so far has been Dustin. So basically, when I'm putting together like the design and stuff like that, he's spending the majority of his time hunting down those interviews and contacting them and all that stuff like that. So I'm pretty sad he didn't come on because, I mean, we literally split the work 50-50. So I can only speak to 50% of what we do, you know. Like we have a pretty good system. So like Dustin is pretty much exclusively the online guy, right? Yeah. Like he does the website, updates it, does all this stuff. I do a lot of the print stuff. Obviously, I provide some of the content for the online. But if he gave me a password to edit the website, but I'm afraid to touch it because I might crash it. You know, I might copy and paste like text, and then like the website's no more. Yeah. So he does that. I do what I do, and then Chris, our associate editor, every general sub that comes in passes through him. Wow. So it got to the point where just gen subs, since they're always open, we're getting a bunch every week.
Wow.
So that's just, he reads them. And when we have other readers, like my wife, his wife, just random friends, they just come and go as they please. They have access to the slush pile, and they can just read a story and just give like a, you know, their thoughts on it. And yeah, then he pushes it through. Chris does for the gen subs. Wow. So
that's good.
But then when
things get done, you know.
Exactly, and I mean, like we all have our fingers dipped in the gen subs, but like we gave him that because I'm in management at my day job. So the worst thing is having too many cooks in the kitchen with no one with an actual assigned area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And since it's good to have 3 people because it becomes a democracy when anything really comes down to it.
So, not a dictatorship.
Exactly. So before that, like Dustin and I would, you know, maybe butt heads on a way we were going to do something, or should we do this first and then that, like our priorities, or if a story's going through or whatever the case may be, because we have completely different tastes. So it'd be like Dustin, like, I love this story, and I'm like, meh, and it, vice versa. But Chris coming in, it's really like his opinion really breaks it, since Dustin and I are really two complete different people. We agree on 98% of things, but when we don't, it's like a standoff in a way. And Chris comes out, with his arms spread, like, okay, guys, we're going to figure this out. So,
well, that actually, yes.
Oh, no, go. That was it. I'm just ranting.
No, I was going to say that actually goes further into the magazine. Do you ever expect to make money off the magazine? Do you have like lofty expectations for it?
Not until we can get some capital, so we can actually print before. You know what I mean? It's not print on demand through Amazon, because obviously it'll bring the production costs like way down.
Yeah. And
we can charge like a set price and actually make a little bit of profit. Right now we're just getting it out there.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like a flagship publication. Obviously we have Shadows of the Mind by Mandy Jordan, which, there's that other publication. Basically it's a flagship to promote indie authors, indie creative people, really, within our aesthetic, and hopefully that just pushes our other publications. But as soon as we can get some capital going, then yeah, we'll do kind of what Cemetery Dance does, and we'll order, say, like 100 copies, and when they're out, they're out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like get it out to like the bookstores and stuff like that. Of course, I mean that's a big job too. That's like sometimes just like doing that. Even in the States, it's like a really big job to get it into all the local bookstores and.
Oh, it's we've looked into it. It's tough. We have stuff I can't talk about, but we have like 4 crazy expansion things in the future. I just had a friend over last night that's going to help with one of the things. My wife almost has she's got about 3 months left, and she's going to have her degree in cinematography.
Nice.
So we're going to try to incorporate some well-produced video aspects into things.
The same as Tapir's video.
Yeah, kind of like that. Because right now, like the little trailers we have, I'm making those like last minute. You know what I mean? Just to kind of put it out there.
Yeah.
But the plan is to make like actual narrative trailers, or maybe take little short stories and do a little short film out of them and stuff like that. It's really because she does work a day job, and then she's in school full time as well. So we had this plan for a while, and then it'd be like, all right, we're gonna film today, and she's like, you can go fuck yourself. I am so busy with this project for school. Like, we're gonna have to wait till I graduate. And like, okay, you know what I mean? And then, but I've already told Dustin we're gonna do this week, and he's like, how'd filming go? And I was like, don't ask. So like,
I mean, it really does make a difference, though. I mean, all the artwork, the little tiny things you don't really. I've been looking up like the YouTube thing to try to grow the channel and everything, and like the thumbnails and just the little artwork pieces. Like, so dude, you adding those videos, like that's just going to add the next, the level of quality to draw people's attention.
Oh yeah, and that's we started. We want to be a lit mag, but the long-term goal has always been like a whole platform of different formats, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, because, we both like writing. We're both writers, but we also like screenwriting. We also like filming. I've also obviously like music. You know what I mean? So it's like all these things kind of want to interweave through everything, not just a lit mag.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So now here's a big question, because I've noticed this. I tried to check it out on my Kindle. There's no Kindle version of Aphotic Realm or any of these. Is that something that you're planning on? Because I remember you said that you had been planning or trying to figure out how to get it into that format.
Yeah. So when Apparitions first came out, we basically used the same file for the Kindle. And I don't really read much on Kindle, and I was kind of ignorant to the Kindle world. But I started getting a couple messages like, hey, the Kindle thing's all weird. So basically what it was doing, it was showing up as like a little thumbnail that people had to zoom in to read. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the PDF.
And I was like, Yeah, I was like, shit, okay. So we got rid of that, and we didn't do it for Banished. We have a Kindle file almost ready for Classified, but basically it's taken all the stories, and you don't get any of the design. Like, you get the title card,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then, like, the artist showcase, but none of that. But we don't know if we want to just release Classified and be like, cool, now we started doing it. But we might retroactively go back and do Apparitions and Banished, and then say in a future episode or a future issue we go, there's a Kindle for this, and now the Kindle for all the past issues are available, like, all at once.
Yeah. Well, that's what they call, like, with blogs and with books and everything. It's like a snowball effect. So you got the latest copy of Aphotic Realm. Everybody goes to it and they're like, "Oh, I want to see the rest of this," because that stuff never gets outdated. It's not like it's old news or anything. It's like, it's still, all those stories can still stand up by themselves. So
exactly.
Yeah, they'll just go right back to it.
And yeah, we're playing, like, when we do that snowball, it'd be like, the 5-day Kindle deal thing where it's either free or like 99 cents. So it's like, yes, you can get all our past issues for like $5. You know what I mean? So
that's a cool deal.
But it's just a tedious thing to go back to, like, Apparitions, because we're collecting submissions, so there's a billion Word docs on our computers.
Yeah.
And a folder called Apparitions, and it's like, okay, is this the one I edited already? Because it's like, did I edit it and then not save and then put it into the magazine format?
Yeah.
So it's like I have to reread all these stories and kind of compare them to what we actually published, because I'm so bad at that. I'm one of those people that have, like, the same file 35 times on my computer, just named differently. So I'm like,
yeah.
what was that story I was writing, 6 months ago? I really want to work on that. And I click it open, and it's like 2 lines. And I'm like, okay, that's not it. And then I open another one. It's like 3 paragraphs of the same story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's not it. I got further.
I'm bad at that too.
And it's like somewhere on the desktop, somewhere in a random folder that I created 6 months ago that says work on this.
Yeah.
That's within 5 other folders.
Yeah.
So
it's bad.
That reminds me, I really need to clean up my desktop.
Same here. I got to do it too.
Bad.
I leave it on the cloud. I leave it on OneDrive, like, for the short stories and stuff. And so it's good that I can open it up anywhere. But then, like, once I go into it, sometimes, just recently I've been putting, like, version 1, version 2, and stuff like that. But I'm really bad with that too.
Yeah, it's bad. Same with, like, the graphic design thing. Like, I have so many, like, Photoshop and, like, Illustrator files, and it's like, okay, I was working on this book cover, or I was working on this flyer for a show, and I mean, I'll get to the point where I'm like, the file will be named, like, goddamn 23. The number makes no sense. The word makes no sense.
Yeah.
I didn't title it after what I'm actually doing, and I'm like, oh my god, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
do you see Aphotic Realm, like, do you see, like, the quality? Do you see yourself upping the quality as things start to happen, like, as it grows, or do you think it's gonna? You think you've pretty much got the quality where you want it? Because it is. I mean, compared to other magazines. It's. I mean, you got the glossy pages. You got. It's quality. It's up there. It's one of the. From what I've seen, that I guess you could say, quote unquote, indie publishing, whatever that we want to say that is. Among them, I've seen yours is like the up there on the highest with the quality aspect of it. But do you see it getting more or gaining any different qualities?
yeah, we hope to. Like, I don't like staying stagnant. Like, even in my, like, writing, I don't expect to be, like, the best writer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my main goal is always make it better in one aspect or the other, the last thing I wrote. And I try to carry that philosophy in, like, everything I do. So some people find that niche where they could they've got their groove and they could kind of just go along because they know that it's going to do well.
Yeah.
But I'd rather take the risk and try to up the quality and it all come crashing down and people go, what the hell are you doing? You had a good thing going, and learn from that mistake than not take the risk and just be happy with what we have. So the next issue, we're going to try something new, try to make it flow better, bring the cost down, the quality up, and if it doesn't work and if people hate it, then oh well.
Yeah.
Like, we learned. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I like to try to be transparent in it. Like, yeah, Dustin and I and Chris are Aphotic Realm, but we're still people, and we're very open that we're still learning a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we're not coming out here saying we're the authorities, we're a big lit mag, and we do this because we're professionals.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're three dudes that literally just been doing this a year, and we're far from being an expert on anything. Like, I've learned a lot, I know a lot, I know what to do and what not to do, but that can change the next issue. I could be like, oh, this is what you do, and then I realize it's not what you do.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Well, like, look at Metallica. I mean, they went through many changes, some of them good, some of them bad, but they learned, and then
Most of them bad.
yeah, well, yeah, like load and reload. But like, if you get like, same with like putting it again, you know, up to it, what you're talking about, you know, people, you take that risk, and even if it's a bad risk, sometimes you can go into the future. You know, you go back to doing what you do, but then you tweak it up, and and then you hit that big thing. Some people will go back to the mess up, or the quote unquote mess up, and go, man, I like this, you know, when this was, you know, and you say to yourself, wait, that was the thing we took a chance on. That was the thing that nobody liked, but now some people are digging it. You know, it's like anything can happen. You know, what, even things change. You know, seasons, years, and change people, and sometimes they'll go back to old stuff, and they'll be like, oh man, I liked when you were doing this stuff. You know, so it's
well, that happens with music too. Like, a lot of my favorite bands, their old shit when they were still figuring it out,
yeah,
is my favorite because it's raw and it's more passion than talent. You know what I mean?
And you could see like the pieces that made them into what they are now and stuff.
Exactly, and that's why I have no qualms about trying new things and stuff like that. Because 5 years down the road, you know, people can look at Apparitions and Banished and Classified, and we can look completely different by that point.
Yeah,
and they could be like, oh, look at them, you can see their thought process. And people could be like, oh man, this is like old school. I really like reading those old school horror mags that are like black and white and like ink blots everywhere because the printing was crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's like that weird nostalgic aesthetic to it where it's like, oh, that's way cooler than like, you know, the newer issues of like Scream that are like super confined and perfect and beautiful looking, and like their columns are right on spot. You know what I mean? Like, we strive to be professional, but we know that you got to have that punk rock flair a little bit in it. So,
yeah.
Because I grew up in the punk scene, and everyone had indie zines that they'd go to Kinko's and make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By cutting out pictures from magazines and basically hodgepodging it on just stock paper, and then scanning it, printing it out, stapling it, and then charging 50 cents at a punk show. And it was like 20 pages of just interviews with like little punk bands or a political piece or whatever. And I grew up on those things. Those things were awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So part of the design is that aspect as well.
One day we might be famous because one day we're in a Aphotic Realm, you know? It's like...
If you're famous in Aphotic Realm, I better be rich because of Aphotic.
I'll be like, I was in issue 2 one day, you know? I was in issue 2. You know,
well, you know, no, I always say that too. Like, you know, you hear Stephen King talking about, you know, he was in Weird Tales and he started out this magazine and that magazine. That's why, like, I think it's cool. Like, you know, me and Gary, like, we were in Unnerving, we were in Aphotic Realm, we were in Dead Man's Tome. When they first
I'm really glad you added it.
Why'd you laugh?
I'm really glad you added it.
So, you know, it's like when they first started out and everything, we could say, you know, we were in the very first issues, man, when they were like, you know, starting out and shit. And here we are, best-selling authors. They're like a big fucking magazine going around the world, you know.
It's just the way you said they were in Dead Man. You know?
I'm
glad you added tone to that. Oh dear.
I mean, that's initial. That's the goal. You know what I mean? But just as much as I want that, is I want to be a successful writer as well. Like what Chismar has going on is like ideal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. His publication is like the standard. It's like the old school.
Yeah.
But then, you know, he's coming out with a novella here, a novel here, this and that and this. He's got a movie coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's blowing up.
Exactly. And that's like, I can only imagine. I joke when I say I want to be rich, but it's like I keep saying literally a lot, but I would not mind living in a studio apartment eating top ramen the rest of my life if I could just live off what I'm doing now and I didn't have to go into a day job.
Certainly.
I would be more than happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you're doing what you love, you know? Even if
exactly.
you're getting that basic rate, you know, like if I can make what I'm making, like you said, it would be not, you know, I wouldn't even have to think about it. I would just jump right into it, you know? It's just...
yeah, I'd be a happier person. The stress that I would have would be good stress.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a big difference. Like
Definitely.
The stress I get from a day job where I don't give a crap about anything going on there. I just have to go there and make sure the building doesn't burn down because I'm in management.
Yeah.
And I have like employees and stuff calling me when I'm not at work, and that stress is the stress that would kill you. But the stress of like a writing deadline or this or that or this, yeah, I smoke more cigarettes because of it, but it may as well kill me. But it's good stress. It's better than being bored out of my mind or literally only focusing on the day job.
Yeah.
So,
your sandwiches look really nice, to be fair.
God, I hate that place.
Your sandwiches look beautiful. They really do.
I never saw the sandwiches.
No, ask him to send you a picture. Ask him to send a picture of his 6 inches, and you'll love it.
Oh man, I think I can get the full 6 inches in my mouth.
You probably can.
Now it's coming out.
Well, we mentioned Dead Man, so now it's degenerated.
We broke Gary's surface, his polite on microphone surface.
It's gone. No, that banana bear did it, I think.
we had 9 people watching at the zenith of our. Now we got 1 person watching.
No, it was probably Deadman, you know?
Yeah, he's probably crying.
I think I accidentally swayed us down the political road, which I didn't want to do, so I apologize to everybody.
No, it's to be fair, I'd have thought political stuff would have attracted people, maybe,
Me
you
too,
know, to hear a bit of it.
in a way I did also. But you know what the thing is like I said, I'm just glad that it was common sense. It wasn't a bullshit, you know, discussion. Oh, get rid of them! Oh no, we need them. No, it's like we were breaking down, you know, pieces that, you know, people have to talk about. It wasn't just talking points that are just, you know, on CNN or Fox. It's something. You know. Actually, to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind doing like a news type podcast or something about news stories, but with common sense. Not like a discussion of people who have these opinions, but like just breaking it down in common sense. It would be tricky though, but
yeah,
it was just
to be
funny
fair,
to see.
I would not listen to that.
Yeah, no, but that's why I'm saying I would.
To be honest,
I'd have to think about it. But but like I said, it was literally 9 people, and as we were talking, I just opened up the tab, and I was like 8, 7, 6, 2. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It just degenerated into 2 people watching. I was like, now, you know.
I think quite a few people are going to watch it after the event. I mean,
I've
had a guy message me on Twitter and say, you know, he can't listen to it all now, but he's really going to listen to it afterwards. It's someone who don't really know either, so which is good, you know.
And that's the thing. I'm always trying to like figure out how to get this into more eyes, like on YouTube and stuff. So I'm learning from all these videos I'm watching on how to get the word out. But I really don't mind the live thing. That, I mean, like, I literally started doing this like a month ago with this, you know, me and you were doing this show, and I opened up the channel to literally open, look, I'm saying literally now, to have it.
I know, I apologize.
But you know,
literally, just start saying literally.
Literally, you know, it was publicly open for like a month. So, I mean, one of our shows got like 106 views, so that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, the live thing, people catch it. That's cool. Like you said, it's later on when you're pushing it out there and people listen to it. You know, that's what really matters.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Something messed up in the beginning. I have to go back, and I'm because this thing I use OBS. It actually records us on the side as well. So I got to see if it cut off, because in the beginning, I think I had it on private, and that's why people were not getting in. And then I fixed it, but I stopped streaming and I started streaming, but it looks like it didn't even stop on YouTube. So I'm hoping it didn't stop, and then I'm just gonna upload it again. But it's on public. You know, from the beginning I had it on public, but I think Kelly was saying she couldn't get on or something.
Yeah, at the beginning. I always ask this question when we talk to editors and stuff, and I always find it really funny. And I know you can't really go into it because there's sort of like a duty of care to the writers that submit to you and stuff. But have you ever received a story that's been absolute dog shit, and you just sort of laughed at it? Besides mine.
No,
And mine.
and I'll talk about it because I don't know who this author was. I don't even know if they used like a real name. Their name didn't seem real.
Yeah.
But we got this submission, maybe 600, 700 words.
Yeah.
And it was like a weird anti-Trump feminist thing. But what they were trying to do, which is fine, like have your political tones in it, right?
Yeah.
But
Was it from Marchese?
It was like very, very, very heavy-handed, like metaphors, but they weren't really metaphors. It was just there was no narrative. It was just talking about like a world where women didn't have vaginas, but they did, but they only belonged to, or something like that. It didn't make any sense.
Oh damn.
The red-capped vagina.
Yeah, and we usually upload every story to a shared file for us to read.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I like blinked twice, and I started reading it again because maybe I was like, maybe I'm not catching something.
Yeah.
And I read like halfway through it, and then I deleted the email, and then I told Dustin, I was like, well, I didn't delete the email, I didn't upload it, and I was like, Dustin, I'm not uploading this one. He's like, why? I was like, I'm just not. You don't need to read it. Like you don't. I just wasted 10 minutes of my time, and I want to kill myself now.
Jeez.
So,
you know, and this is the thing. Like, I have a daughter and everything. I'm not going to say I'm a feminist, but I totally think that women should be equal. You know, have the equality and everything. I'm all for that stuff, and especially now more so with having the daughter. I want my daughter to become a writer. I want her to be powerful and feel herself that she could do anything.
well, yeah,
yeah.
and that's granted. But this writing was just
that's the thing. I saw something on the
people
the
just took words and like a word generator and just threw it on there.
Yeah, but I was reading this one thing where this woman was like sort of controlling her husband, and she was saying that he was playing Grand Theft Auto, and she found the game on his computer, and when she confronted him, she told him to delete the game, get rid of his Steam account, sell his computer on Facebook, and she had to monitor everything he did. And I was like, what the fuck? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, like I said, to each his own. You could do whatever you want. But how could you live like that? It's like,
I don't know.
Will you tell me?
Yeah, right.
I don't know about you guys, but I do not do ultimatums. Like,
no.
It's just open. You know, it's just so
once
far.
someone gives, if you're not paying my rent, which is my boss, essentially,
yeah.
You can't give me an ultimatum because I'm done with you. You're just taking away free will.
Yeah.
But you know, if my boss goes, you do this or you're fired, well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But that's just capitalism. But
that explains the videos you see on YouTube.
Well, I mean, I guess in this guy's case, it was you do this or you get no sex. I mean, I know, but it's like I don't know what the fuck. It's just such an extreme.
That's when you say, "Peace, bitch, I'm out." Like, like I don't know. I've been in relationships before where ultimatums were like a big thing, and these were like relationships when you're younger, like 16, 17, 18, and oh man, does that turn sour fast?
Yeah, it really.
Yeah,
then it becomes like if I can't do this because of this, then you can't do this because of that, and you know, and then we've all been with our significant other for a while, and I'm sure you guys don't get ultimatums unless it's like a very, very drastic thing. Because obviously you have kids, so it's like you can't do that or blah blah. But me, like both my wife and I are very free-willed people. Like if I told her she couldn't do something ever, or vice versa, we'd automatically go do said thing to the umpth degree.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to be like, you're not controlling me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean. That's weird. I couldn't do that. I don't care.
It was just such an extreme article. I was like, who lives like this? But I guess there are people.
Very sad, lonely man that needs human contact and doesn't think that he'll get it anywhere else.
I think he probably has really soft skin. Like his skin is really pink and it's almost translucent. And he wears like a little cap. What are those caps called, Gary?
Red caps.
No, the little no, those little bowler caps.
The one with the spinny thing on the top?
The pork pies.
Oh, the little pork pie piggy hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. But
so Medina, what's the best podcast you've been on so far? Then
I don't know. It's a literal toss of the coin. So
I must admit, losing the plot was really good, man. You gave away so much on that. It was quite emotional, actually.
Oh, he has his Scottish accent has a way of like.
He's Irish, actually, but yeah.
Oh, he's Scottish.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, fair enough.
Unless I read that wrong. I'm actually making his book cover for his next book coming out on Hinder Souls.
Oh, that explains a lot.
So I read his bio, and I think it says a Scottish engineer living in Norway.
Oh, wow.
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
But I mean, you guys are all white people that talk funny over there, anyways. So
I know.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
It's including you too, Will.
Okay.
Anything?
Yeah.
Anything past Texas is just weird. So.
I think including Texas is weird.
Yeah, including Texas.
Yeah.
So,
can't forget Texas.
Well, and everything west of Arizona, which is California, is weird as well too. So.
Except for Arizona's got that little. Yeah. It's like what did you call it? A metropolis.
So yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh god. I'm gonna have to shoot off in a couple of minutes, man.
Yeah,
it's gone on. It's been like 2.5 hours, but
yeah. No, it's just the longest one.
Yeah,
but to answer your question, like honestly, they're both different. So this is like super very casual, and Leo just gets right down to
polite.
Asking a question. No, and it's nice. It's nice. It's just it's a chat.
Yeah.
You know,
well, if you thought that this was casual,
wow.
Go on the Dead Man's Stone podcast.
Have you been on Deadman's yet, Medina?
No, this is only my second podcast, but I'm not a big
cool
talker guy.
No, I did listen to the Leo one, and you came up with all sorts of stuff. It got really, really deep, and I was like, wow, and you talked about Siphon and the stuff behind it, and I was like, wow, it was a good podcast, man. It was,
he caught me at a good time. I was like a pot and a half deep of coffee, half asleep, and he'd ask a question like, he just ask a question, and then before I knew it, I was giving away like my whole tragic life story, and I was like, whoa, what happened? It's like, when like you watch those shows where like the psychologist like tricks someone into like
you start crying, holding onto his arms. Leo.
I was like, oh man, you got to me.
Like, you got your idea. It was brilliant. No, it's really, really good. And
after he's like, all right, we're all done here. I was like, oh crap, I said a lot of crap. He did edit some weird things out like that were questionable that I said.
Like when you were crying mummy and sucking your thumb and stuff like that.
I probably said exact names and stuff like that to things.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. And like I messaged him and I was like, hey, he's like, don't worry. He's like, I edit the crap out of these things. I'm gonna make you look
Gary
good.
Buller and Will Marchese are a pair of dickheads. Yeah. Well, Gary Buller, I hate him. He's on Twitter all the time. What a dick. Oh shit! Get rid of that one, Leo.
I think he said Wilmark crazy.
No, these are fun. You gotta have Dustin on so he can talk about the other half, and you'll have.
I'd love to have Dustin.
Oh yeah,
on.
yeah.
I just want to cuddle him though. He's just a big like teddy bear. I just want to cuddle him.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
That guy can get darker than I can get, even though like.
I can see that though. I can see that.
Oh, yeah. He's got the weird like. I don't know. He's got that weird dark side that, since he is a dad and he grew up, kind of orthodoxy in a way. That
you know the funny thing is, like, I grew up in the Bronx. My mom passed when I was 13. I had that. I'm quiet. It says Gary. I had that really
Sorry.
I had that really like quiet inner way too, and I know what you mean because the ones that are quiet have that really dark.
Oh yeah, I'll read some of his stories or like his first drafts, and I'll be like, "What the fuck, Dustin?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because I'm just used to being like in the metal scene and just the friends I have and my upbringing, I can be openly dark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even with like I work in a kitchen, you know what I mean? So I don't know if you've ever been in a kitchen atmosphere.
Oh, I have.
with a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
You're just openly dark and gross all day. But he works, he's like a tech support person at a law firm. So he's got to have this professional thing all day. And then I think when he does write his stories, it's like tenfold the darkness.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa, dude. I like it, but whoa.
Yeah.
Like, so
Well,
no, yeah.
That's why you say you're a horror author. Then you can just like hide behind that.
Yeah.
Because they used to never question. You say, "Oh man, what are all these crazy thoughts you're having?" I was like, "Oh, I'm a horror writer." Oh, okay, that makes sense. now today they don't. Now today they'll look at you like, "Oh man, you're probably doing something."
Yeah. I told you about my next door neighbour, didn't I? He bought Mechanisms of Despair on Kindle. And he'd read it, and I just put the bin out one day, for the bin men to collect. And he was sort of putting his out, and he sort of looked at me really, really funny. And I was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay, Mike?" And he was like, "Yeah. I just read your book."
Oh,
I was like, "Oh, right, okay."
Yeah, that was the first thing. Like, my mom bought a copy of Siphon, and I was like, before you read this, all the
bit where
yeah, and I was all the weird like mommy issues the main character has. I was like, that does not reflect me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a very Freudian book. And then she read it on a plane trip to like Tennessee or something like that. And then she texts me from Tennessee. She's like, I read your book, and that was it. And I was all,
Oh,
and she's like, it was good. And I was like, cool. And she's like, yeah.
What did you
And she's like, I'm gonna
what
buy.
did you think about the bit? What did you think about the hooker?
She bought a bunch of copies for like my family on the East Coast and like West Virginia, and they're like very Bible belty type people.
Shit.
Oh no!
Well, first of all, it's like I don't even think they can read, but but if they do, I don't talk to them anyways. Like I said, my mom and me are the black sheep of the family. She lives in Arizona. Everyone else lives on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we don't share that philosophy on life. But yeah, she bought all these books, and she bought like Itch for people. And the first story in Itch Traditions is very dark as well.
Yeah.
And my wife read that story, and she's like, "What the hell?" I know you read some of that story.
I
at
did.
least.
Yeah.
So when I had my wife proofread that, and she read Traditions, she's like, "There's something you want to talk about?" And I'm because it has to do with neglecting your wife and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was, oh no, God,
Cuckold.
yeah.
That's not neglecting your wife, Gary. That's actually letting her run a little
like Jesse.
rampant.
Gary, I didn't even realize that scene was essentially a cuckolding scene until you mentioned it.
Well, there you go.
Like, and then you said
You
that
learned-
my favorite
yeah.
was cuckolding, and I was all, oh, it was a secret cuckold, though.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I
wonder if I
I'm
could
not the guy
tag
to
that.
talk to about that. It's Jesse you need to talk to about.
Yeah, Jesse would know. I wonder if I could tag
But that-
cuckold in the tag part of this.
You should do.
It'll probably get a
But
whole
in
bunch of
Siphon,
hits.
in Siphon, when he gets through the prostitute and he picks the one that's on a period, and I sort of remember you talking about that with Leo, and thinking that sounds absolutely disgusting. But it's really tasteful. I said tastefully done, but it's really.
I don't say
When you
penis or dick or anything in that book, or
No,
vagina.
no.
Which is
no.
that was my goal. I was like, I wanted to read, like, I say cock once. I say avatar cock. But it was more of like a joke. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I wanted to trick people into reading a little bit of erotica without the erotica nouns. So
Yeah.
Yes, those can be very like cringeworthy.
exactly. That's why I was
goodness.
like, no.
But it was well put together, and I was listening to it thinking this isn't as offensive as I thought it might be, and it was very well written, and it was a scene that was sort of pertinent to the story, and it wasn't just thrown in there for the sake of being gross, which was good.
Yeah.
No, it was well done. But
I had a couple scenes that I completely cut out during the first draft that I was like, this doesn't even make, you know what I mean? I'm just doing this because it's a cool looking scene in my brain.
Yeah.
But according to the story, and I'll be like, I'll just file this scene away for like a short story, or maybe I can incorporate it in my next book or something like that. So
yeah.
Sometimes it's good.
Gary
to still write
Phillips
those.
took Dustin. Yeah.
What's that?
I just said Gary Phillips took Dustin. One of the deleted scenes. Sorry, no. I was just being stupid.
Sometimes it's good to write those scenes because even if they don't, they're not doing anything, it still builds something for you in your head. And even though it doesn't, work out for the reader, it still built like a section in your head of something you needed to see for something else that happens, but then you just cut it out and you don't really need it.
That, and then there's like the characters like Snowflake in the book. Mm-hmm. I actually fell in love writing that character, like her attitude and like her inner workings. And I actually started writing it's going to be like a little novelette. It's basically her backstory that leads all the way up to that day when Gary Phillips first shows up.
Hello.
I got to read this.
So
yeah, it's good. It's good. Anyway, guys, I'm going to literally have to shoot.
I'm gonna let me. So that was the show, and we will see you next time. We just have to